Chapter 11:14. Saint King frowned and asked suspiciously. Tang Zheng's cultivation is not high. How can he be their core? Because he has the 9-yang saint body, a celestial. 100 Change Star Lord said without hesitation. He had no intention of protecting Tang Zheng's secret. Celestial? The sage was greatly shocked, and was unable to conceal the strange expression on his face. However, the expressions of many demons were as usual, and did not change because of the 3 words celestial. Not everyone knew about the celestial. The celestial had disappeared for so long that they were almost forgotten. Those who knew the inside story were the absolute powerhouses with high positions. Saint King naturally knew. He knew that the ancestor of the demon race, Qiyu, was a celestial. His glory was not passed down by the later generations. But since then, the demon race did not have a celestial. Because of this, the demon race did not rise again. They were suppressed by the righteous path for a long time. Hearing that Tang Zheng was a celestial, Saint King's heart became excited. Could this be the will of the heavens? The demon race returned, and the celestial reappeared. Could it be that the demon race was destined to rise again? Moreover, there was no righteous path in this world. They were the only rulers. Even if there was no celestial, it would be difficult for them to meet a worthy opponent. Of course, if there was a celestial, it would be a different scene. Saint King naturally would not reject such a good thing. The 100 Transformation Star Lord did not know what the sage was thinking. Seeing that the other party seemed to be very interested, he hurriedly added, "If Tang Zheng is not eliminated, he will definitely become a big problem in the future. This is my experience, a lesson learned." The sage monarch's expression became more and more thought-provoking, making it difficult for others to see through him. There was even a trace of an imperceptible smile in his eyes. No wonder the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign was defeated time and time again. His opponent was a celestial. Then everything can be explained. How could a celestial be so casually dealt with by anyone? Even if a celestial was very weak. 100 Change Star Lord did not know that he had shot himself in the foot. Instead, it made Saint King look at Tang Zheng in a new light. "Where is Tang Zheng?" Saint King asked. Before the 100 Transformation Star Lord could finish his sentence, a loud voice suddenly sounded from afar. "I'm here." Tang Zheng took this opportunity to escape. He turned his head to look at the dumpling-like demons in the sky. His mind shook as he muttered to himself, "This is big trouble. I have to go back and discuss countermeasures with the others." When the demons returned, he and the people around him would definitely be the first to be affected. After all, he was irreconcilable with the demon race. They had fought many times, and with the 100 Faces Star Sovereign fanning the flames, the result was obvious. "Young man, the demon clan is powerful. You must think of a way to deal with them. Otherwise, there will be endless troubles." The inner demons exhorted. They were closely related to Tang Zheng. They were bound together for good or ill. Naturally, they did not want anything to happen to him. "Heart Demon, do you have any ideas?" Tang Zheng asked curiously as he tried any medicine he could think of. The inner demon stammered, "No matter how powerful I am, I won't be able to help you. After all, I'm in your body and my strength is restricted. Otherwise, I would definitely be able to make this group of demons never return." Tang Zheng curled his lips. If the inner demons were to be released, he would be the first to suffer. After all, the inner demons had suffered a lot in front of him. Moreover, the inner demons and Qiyu were parasitized in his body. He did not know how to release them. "Although I don't have a way, Qiyu definitely has a way." The demon clan evolved from the Juli tribe. Therefore, Qiyu is their ancestor. If he says something, maybe the conflict can be resolved. The inner demons suggested. Tang Zheng moved his head and suddenly realized, "That's right. How could I forget about Qiyu? Qiyu, do you have any ideas?" Qiyu did not say a word. The inner demons could not stand it and ridiculed. "Qiyu, you've been silent for so long. Have you become mute?" Tang Zheng also suddenly realized that Qiyu was a little abnormal. It seemed that ever since the Mountain River blood sacrifice array was activated, he had not said a word. No one could guess his thoughts. The two of them shouted a few times, but Qiyu did not respond. This made the two of them mutter in their hearts and become suspicious. Inner demons, what's wrong with him? The inner demons muttered. He can't be thinking of some bad idea, right? His words came true. The War Soul sword trembled violently and suddenly changed directions. It carried Tang Zheng and flew in the direction of the 100 Faces Star Lord. What's going on? Tang Zheng cried out in alarm. War Soul sword. What are you doing? Tang Zheng moved his mind, trying to communicate with the sword spirit, but discovered that there was no reply at all. He had lost contact with the sword spirit. One had to know that ever since the War Soul sword obtained the artifact Spirit Sword Soul, he could communicate with the War Soul sword at any time, and control the War Soul sword could be said to be as easy as ordering an arm. However, there was no reply at this time. This was extremely abnormal. Could it be that the War Soul sword had been severely injured just now, so there was a problem? No. He immediately rejected this idea. Although the War Soul sword was injured, it was not that serious. There must be something fishy going on. Qiyu, are you playing tricks? The inner demons had an idea and asked loudly. Tang Zheng's head turned cold. Qiyu, could it be that this was his doing? He was the master of the War Soul sword. How could Qiyu control the War Soul sword? Back then in the Changbai Mountain sinkhole, Qiyu controlled my body to subdue the War Soul sword. Could it be that he had done something at that time, but I had never discovered it? Now that Qiyu suddenly attacked, he controlled the War Soul sword? Tang Zheng was shocked by his own thoughts. Although he knew that Qiyu had always harbored ill intentions towards him, and was not one of his people, he never thought that he would hide it so deeply. But at this time, Qiyu suddenly attacked. What was his intention? Demon Clan. Without thinking too much, Tang Zheng guessed the answer. It was definitely the return of the Demon Clan's army, causing Qiyu to finally take the risk and suddenly attack. He definitely had a plan, and the reason why he had been silent the entire time was definitely because he was silently brewing. However, he and the inner demons did not discover Qiyu's wild ambition. The inner demons also thought of this and became flustered and exasperated. Qiyu, you shameless guy. Do you not want to live by doing this? When Qiyu attacked, the inner demons and Tang Zheng naturally would not sit idly by. The three sides fought fiercely, fighting to the death. In the end, it was still unknown who would win. But no matter who won in the end, the fragile balance in front of them would be completely broken. Everything was filled with unknown variables. The inner demons and Tang Zheng gnashed their teeth in hatred towards Qiyu, but the other party did not respond at all. Even if the two of them jumped up and cursed, it was useless. Inner demons, what can we do? Tang Zheng asked with an ashen face as he watched the War Soul sword fly towards the Demon Clan. He could not abandon the War Soul sword, jump into the sea, and escape alone. The War Soul sword was too important to him. It had almost become a part of his life, helping him defeat countless enemies. How could he abandon the War Soul sword? He desperately urged his power, trying to communicate with the War Soul sword, but in the end, it proved that everything was in vain. Qiyu, if you are heartless, I will not be righteous. I am not someone who can be trampled on. At worst, I will fight to the death. Tang Zheng's eyes flashed with a fierce light, and with a fierce expression, he directly used his power to absorb Qiyu's heart's blood. This was Qiyu's Achilles heel. Hiss hiss. Qiyu's heart's blood was immediately sucked out of Qiyu's heart, quickly flowing towards the Zifu Yuanying, and fusing into the Yuanying. Yuanying's light shone brightly. The purple light was mysterious and noble. The meridians in Yuanying's body gradually condensed, especially the few main meridians that appeared one by one. It was as if a river had appeared on a continent, immediately becoming full of vitality. Yuanying's facial features also became clearer, no different from Tang Zheng's. Every organ and tissue, from the inside to the outside, and from the outside to the inside, condensed and formed. Seeing this scene, Tang Zheng was not pleasantly surprised. Although he knew that his cultivation was increasing, and that the energy of Qiyu's heart's blood was extraordinary, his body would lose balance and even lose control. All of this was filled with unknown dangers. However, he did not retreat. He had already been forced into a desperate situation by Qiyu. If he took a step back, it would be a bottomless abyss. He would be completely possessed and his soul would scatter. He could accept failure, but he would not accept failure that he had never worked hard to achieve. Even if it was death, as long as he had worked hard, fought for it, and done his best, even if he lost, it would still be glorious. He desperately absorbed Chi-Yu's heart's blood, and the true Chi in his body advanced by leaps and bounds. Even the pure young energy became restless, constantly running around in his meridians. It was a mess. It was a mess this time. Tang Zheng's cheeks were sometimes flushed red like burning charcoal, and sometimes his face was deathly white like layers of snow. It was constantly changing, and his entire body was emitting a strange aura. The inner demon sighed. Chi-Yu, you've really killed me. Humph, no matter what your plan is, I will never let you succeed. Chi-Yu and Chi-Yu were old rivals, so how could they watch him do this indifferently? Therefore, the inner demons immediately launched an attack. The consciousness of the inner demons extended, enveloping Chi-Yu's heart. A strange power instantly spread out. Chi-Yu's heart thumped fiercely, as if it was going to jump out of Tang Zheng's chest. The violent heartbeat caused the blood in Tang Zheng's limbs and bones to quickly gather towards his heart. His entire body became unable to move, and he could only let the War Soul Sword carry him towards the demon clan. However, Tang Zheng's consciousness was able to move freely. The battle this time was a battle of consciousness between the three of them. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, their consciousness began to fight. These three consciousnesses were not in Tang Zheng's mind, but gathered in Chi-Yu's heart. In an instant, the scene in front of him changed. Tang Zheng found himself in a blood-red world, a world that he had never seen before. Not far away stood a middle-aged man. He had the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. He had a wide face and big ears. He was awe-inspiring. Suddenly, a person appeared. This person had a handsome face, and was an elegant young master. However, his face had a gloomy and cold aura, giving people a very uncomfortable feeling. Chapter 11:15. This was the first time that Tang Zheng had seen these two people, but he had a feeling that he knew them. The tall and sturdy one was Chi-Yu, and the pale and beardless one was the inner demons. This feeling was extremely mysterious, but when he saw them, his heart suddenly had this feeling. Chi-Yu, inner demons. Tang Zheng subconsciously blurted out. The two of them turned their heads to look at Tang Zheng, laughing dryly. Chi-Yu's voice sounded, and sure enough, it came from the tall and sturdy man's mouth. Tang Zheng, you actually recognized me. Tang Zheng's eyebrows jumped, looking at the other person in disbelief. This person was actually Chi-Yu. How could he appear so vividly in front of him? This thought lingered, but he couldn't find an answer. Young man, this is the core of Chi-Yu's heart. Only divine sense can enter. We only have divine sense right now. The other person explained. It was clearly the voice of the inner demons. Tang Zheng's eyebrows were tightly knit, his eyes filled with a dignified look. His own divine sense had entered this side of the world, but he was completely unable to predict what would happen. Turning his gaze, he locked onto Chi-Yu and asked, Chi-Yu, what are you trying to do by controlling War Soul? Chi-Yu laughed loudly, his thick eyebrows and big eyes were quite dignified. It was difficult to hide his confidence and arrogance. He said complacently, of course it's to take back everything that belongs to me. Everything that belongs to you? What do you have? Tang Zheng said disdainfully. Chi-Yu stared at him. I want to regain my freedom. Do you understand? You want to take over my body. Tang Zheng was shocked. Chi-Yu's wolfish ambition had not disappeared. When the inner demons heard this, he flew into a rage. Chi-Yu, you are truly deranged. I finally understand why you chose this time. You want to use the demons that fell from the sky to achieve this goal, right? Since it has come to this, I don't want to lie to you. Inner demons, you are right. You and I have been enemies for many years. We have been fighting for so long. Today we will finally put an end to it. Chi-Yu said solemnly. The inner demons disdainfully snorted. Chi-Yu, you think too much. Back then you and the Yellow Emperor couldn't kill me. Now you think you can kill me? Times have changed. You are no longer the inner demons of the past. Moreover, this brat's inner demons have been expelled. Once I take control of his body, I can use this opportunity to imprison you in this body forever. When that time comes, what awaits you will be a prison that will never see the light of day. What can you do? Chi-Yu said jokingly. The inner demon's face suddenly changed, clenching his teeth. It was a long time before he burst out a sentence. Chiyu, you are so cunning, so ruthless. Haha, you and I are life and death enemies. To be kind to you is to be cruel to myself. Do you think I am that stupid? I can't kill you, but I can restrict your freedom forever. This feeling must not be good, right? Chiyu's eyes shone brightly. When Tang Zheng heard these words, he was infuriated. He was the owner of this body, yet he was being ignored in such a blatant manner. You want to take over my body? Did you ask for my permission? Tang Zheng angrily shouted in dissatisfaction. Chiyu rolled his eyes in disdain and said, Tang Zheng, I know you are absorbing the heart's blood. This can indeed weaken me and increase your cultivation, but once I take control of this body, increasing your cultivation will instead be beneficial. You can do whatever you want to absorb the energy of the heart's blood. Are you not afraid that I will absorb your heart's blood? Tang Zheng was puzzled. In the past, Chiyu was very afraid that he would absorb Chiyu's heart's blood. He was afraid that his strength would be weakened, and then the inner demons would gain the upper hand. I have carefully prepared for this for so long. How can a little fear make me give up halfway? Moreover, in such a short time, it is impossible for you to absorb all of my heart's blood. As long as the heart's blood does not dry up, then I can take over your body, Chiyu said ruthlessly. Tang Zheng was speechless. The inner demons were not to be outdone and said, Chiyu, do you really think I don't exist? Let me tell you, as long as I am here, your evil plan will not succeed. Humph, then let's see if you have the ability to stop me. Chiyu was not afraid in the slightest. The inner demon's face was filled with anger, his figure flashed, and he pounced towards Chiyu. Chiyu stamped his foot. The space seemed to tremble, the empty space around him rippling. Then Chiyu was like a ferocious tiger released from its cage, his huge fist directly attacking the inner demons. The two of them were illusions of divine sense. They attacked each other without magic weapons or even spells. Only the most primitive attacks of fists to flesh. The inner demons was indeed very strong, but in terms of physical strength he was not Chiyu's opponent at all. So when the two of them fought, their fists and feet were added together, their figures flying around, dazzling the eyes. Tang Zheng watched the battle from the side. He could see the clues. Chiyu obviously had the upper hand. If this continued, then the inner demons would be in trouble. Tang Zheng of course did not have a good impression of the inner demons. The inner demons did not attack this time, but it could not be denied that he also had the intention to attack, but perhaps the time was not right for him. If the inner demons had such a heaven-sent opportunity like Chiyu, then they would certainly attack without restraint, and then take over Tang Zheng's body. There was little difference between the two of them with wild ambitions. However, now that Chiyu's power was great, he had the advantage of time and place. If he fought to the death and really occupied Tang Zheng's body, then with his identity, he would definitely be able to summon the demon clan and unify this world. Too many people would be in danger, especially Tang Zheng's family and friends, who would bear the brunt of it. Of course, he could not sit back and do nothing, so even if he knew the inner demon's evil intentions, he had to stand on the inner demon's side this time and join forces to fight against Chiyu. Whoosh! Tang Zheng's feet shook, and in a flash he was behind Chiyu, punching at Chiyu's back. Chiyu seemed to have eyes on the back of his head. He did not need to look back to know that Tang Zheng was coming to attack. With a wave of his hand, his arm was like a cannonball, fiercely swinging back, smashing into Tang Zheng's fist. Bang! Tang Zheng's arms shook, and the intense pain eroded his nerves, causing him to cry out in alarm. He did not expect Chiyu's fighting strength to be so strong. A casual swing of his fist was so powerful that he could not even take one move. The horror in his eyes could not be concealed. Tang Zheng stared straight at Chiyu's back with his eyes wide open. Chiyu did not even turn his head after throwing out this punch. Obviously, he was very confident in this move, or it could be said that he did not take Tang Zheng seriously at all. Tang Zheng looked at the inner demons again, and the look in his eyes changed. The inner demons seemed to be forced back by Chiyu, but after all, they still had the strength to fight. Although they looked battered and exhausted, in fact, their fighting strength was much higher than Tang Zheng's. Only then did Tang Zheng understand that he was blind. Although the inner demons were not outstanding in terms of physical fighting strength, after all, Their foundation was there, and Tang Zheng could not catch up. However, Tang Zheng's biggest advantage was that he knew that there was a tiger in the mountain, but he still went to the tiger's mountain. He had already realized the gap between his strength and his opponents, but he did not admit defeat, nor did he give up. Like a flash of lightning across the sky, he jumped up again and rushed toward Qiyu. Qiyu's lips curled into a disdainful sneer. "Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Qiyu forced the inner demons back with one move, then turned around abruptly. His round eyes were like the eyes of a fierce beast, emitting a fierce light that made people shudder. But Tang Zheng persevered. With a low roar, he punched out with both fists towards Qiyu. Qiyu also threw out both fists, like an angry dragon rising out of the sea, setting off stormy waves. Bang! Bang! Two loud sounds rang out, and Tang Zheng let out a heart-wrenching scream. He watched as his arms were destroyed, his meridians shattered, his flesh and blood separated, revealing the eerie white bones. Then with a few cracking sounds, the white bones broke, and finally turned into a wisp of smoke and disappeared without a trace. He became a cripple, losing both of his arms. The intense pain made Tang Zheng's eyes bloodshot, and his eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. In particular, the mental stimulation was so great that he almost collapsed. He lost his mind, and it seemed that his whole body was about to fall apart. Qiyu looked at this scene and laughed complacently. "Tang Zheng, you overestimate yourself. In Qiyu's heart, how can you be my opponent? Moreover, I was at the peak of the Mahayana realm back then. How can a little Yuanying like you compare to me?" Tang Zheng clenched his teeth, resisting the piercing pain, and said, "Qiyu, do you think this can make me submit? No way. Humph, you don't know what's good for you. I'll deal with the inner demons first, and then I'll deal with you." Qiyu roared and then fiercely attacked the inner demons. In an instant, figures flew, and the two of them fought fiercely. Tang Zheng watched this scene with his eyes wide open, seemingly powerless. Although his arms were destroyed, this was only his divine sense. His physical body was not destroyed. However, in reality, his entire body was covered in cold sweat, and the pain was accurately transmitted to every part of his body. This kind of pain from the divine sense was even more intense than a real knife or spear wound, making people wish they could die immediately. Tang Zheng's willpower was strong, but he was also a little absent-minded. His mind gradually lost control, and the speed at which he absorbed the blood essence became slower and slower. His cultivation had already increased a lot, but it was of no use. In front of him, the demon clan could already be seen from afar. He was very clear about what that black mass of people meant. Whiz! The flying speed of the war soul sword increased greatly, streaking across the sky, bringing with it a sound of breaking through the air, and then landed on the ground. Just at this time, a voice came from Saint King's mouth. "Where is Tang Zheng?" Tang Zheng's pupils constricted, his gaze was firmly attracted by Saint King. When he saw that tall and sturdy figure and powerful aura, he immediately realized that this person was an important figure in the demon clan. Qiyu's evil plan succeeded and really brought him back, causing him to fall into the wolf's den. Suddenly, a burst of intense pain attacked his mind again. He only felt that the sky and earth were spinning, and everything in front of him turned into nothingness. A voice came out of his mouth, but it was not him who spoke. Chapter 11:16. Under everyone's gaze, Tang Zheng's answer was like a clap of thunder, exploding in everyone's ears and attracting everyone's attention. Apex novel. The 100 Faces Star-Lord suddenly turned around, his eyeballs almost popping out of their sockets. "Tang Zheng," his voice was extremely long. Obviously, he was really shocked by this scene. The 100 Faces Star-Lord gnashed his teeth in hatred when Tang Zheng retreated earlier. Now that the demon race had returned, he actually dared to return. Was he scared out of his wits? This scene was too inconceivable. "Tang Zheng?" The Saint King raised his thick eyebrows and stared at Tang Zheng suspiciously as he asked. The 100 Faces Star-Lord's words were still fresh in everyone's mind. Tang Zheng was their enemy and had obstructed the demon race's return many times. Instantly, all eyes fell on Tang Zheng like the sharpest swords. Tang Zheng, or more accurately, Qiyu, was indifferent and looked at everyone arrogantly like a general inspecting his soldiers. His eyes were sharp and his expression was arrogant. The 100 Faces Star-Lord could not believe his eyes. Was this still Tang Zheng? Why did he feel so different? It was as if he was a different person? This was the first time the other demons had seen Tang Zheng. Looking at this scene, they believed the 100 Faces Star-Lord's words. Although Tang Zheng's cultivation was not very high, his aura was enough to convince many people with higher cultivation. The Saint King's heart was also stirred up. Only an expert would understand the value of such an aura. Facing thousands of troops, being calm and talking cheerfully was the style of a general. However, compared to the person in front of him, such a person was still inferior. His demeanor was not something that could be faked casually. It was as if all the people in the world had to listen to his orders and were at his mercy. This was something that even a real expert could not have. The 100 Faces Star Sovereign naturally saw this as well, so his calm heart was stirred up by a storm. Why did Tang Zheng change so much in the blink of an eye? Could it be that he had been hiding his strength all along and was playing a game of cat and mouse with him? What, Tang Zheng? Are you all blind? Qiyu reprimanded domineeringly. It's not Tang Zheng? Saint King turned his eyes to the 100 Faces Star-Lord with a questioning look. He's Tang Zheng. I broke one of my legs. How could I forget him? 100 Faces Star Sovereign shouted, but as soon as he finished speaking, he realized that something was wrong. His cultivation was higher than Tang Zheng's, but he still lost a leg. No matter who he told, it was not something to be proud of. On the contrary, it would make others look down on him. But what was said couldn't be taken back. His face was red as he looked at the others. Sure enough, he found that there was shock in the others' eyes, mixed with a trace of schadenfreude. The 100 Faces Star-Lord was in a dilemma and almost suffered internal injuries. Saint King's focus was not on this. The 100 Faces Star-Lord swore that this person was Tang Zheng, but he said that he was not Tang Zheng. What was going on? Who are you? Saint King asked sternly. I'm Qiyu, the leader of the Ninely tribe. This sentence was more powerful than 10,000 claps of thunder. It immediately made people's hearts tremble and their minds become dizzy. Qiyu was a real powerhouse in ancient legends. He was the leader of the Ninely tribe and the ancestor of the demon tribe. He was famous and everyone knew about him. But everyone knew that he died in the Battle of Zhuolu with the Yellow Emperor. From then on, the Ninely tribe fell apart and evolved into the demon tribe. How dare you pretend to be the ancestor of Qiyu? You deserve death. I must tear you into pieces to appease the soul of Qiyu in heaven. Kill him, kill him. The roars were filled with killing intent. They wanted nothing more than to tear the person in front of them into pieces. The 100 Faces Star-Lord laughed disdainfully. He stared at Tang Zheng as if he was a madman and said, Tang Zheng, you're really amazing. You dare to pretend to be Qiyu in front of the demon tribe. Don't you know what Qiyu means to the demon tribe? Do you think that your life is too long and that you can't die quickly enough? Originally, he was worried that Tang Zheng would come back and have some tricks up his sleeve. But when he heard Tang Zheng say that he was Qiyu, wasn't he seeking death? Suddenly, he looked like he was watching a good show. Maybe he even wanted to sit on a stool, cross his legs, and watch the show while eating melon seeds. In short, there was no need for him to do anything. The demon tribe would fight to avenge him. However, there was one person who had a different reaction. Saint King. He narrowed his eyes slightly, and the light that leaked out from the slits of his eyes was like a scanner, able to detect even the tiniest detail and identify any clues. Saint King asked, What evidence do you have to prove that you're Qiyu's ancestor? Qiyu snorted heavily and said proudly, Finally, there's someone who's not too stupid. I didn't expect that during my absence, each generation was worse than the last. You've all become someone who has eyes but can't see. The demon tribe was furious. He wanted to shout, but when he saw the look in Saint King's eyes, he immediately swallowed his disrespectful words. But the pairs of eyes were full of hostility. Obviously, they didn't really believe the other party's nonsense. 100 Faces mocked, Tang Zheng, don't pretend to be a ghost. You can't imagine what kind of person Qiyu is. You can pretend to be anyone, but you pretended to be him. I've seen him before. Do you think you can fool my eyes? Chiyu glanced at 100 Faces indifferently and said, 100 Faces, I didn't expect that after tens of thousands of years. You're still so stupid. Back then, when I broke Mount Bujo, I only imprisoned you in Mount Bujo. I was too kind to you. A guy like you who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth should have been killed long ago. If it wasn't for your father's great contributions, how could you live to this day? 100 Faces' expression changed when he heard this. Only the people involved knew this secret. With Tang Zheng's age and experience, how could he know what happened tens of thousands of years ago? 100 Faces stared at Tang Zheng as if he had seen a ghost and roared. Who are you? I've already told you, you fool. I'm Chiyu. Impossible. Didn't the rumors say you were dead? Did you see me die with your own eyes? I didn't, 100 Faces said angrily. Before the Battle of Zhuolu, he had been imprisoned in Mount Bujo. Of course, he didn't see Chiyu die in battle with his own eyes. However, ever since he escaped, he spent a lot of effort studying the history of ancient times. The Yellow Emperor and Chiyu were no longer in this world. Everyone from that era had long died, except for him. At this moment, he suddenly saw Chiyu appear. It was obvious how he felt. I, Chiyu, fought against the heavens and earth. How could I die so easily? Back then, I'll repay the Yellow Emperor and his descendants 100 times for what he did to me and the Ninely tribe. Who were the descendants of the Ninely tribe? Who were the descendants of the Yellow Emperor? In the Battle of Zhuolu, the Yellow Emperor unified the world. The Yellow Emperor's tribe expanded without restraint and occupied the vast central plains. In the end, they became the people of the world. In other words, all the people of Huaxia were the descendants of the Yellow Emperor. Chiyu couldn't take revenge on the Yellow Emperor, so he could only take revenge on the descendants of the Yellow Emperor. That was to take revenge on all the people of Huaxia. This was a huge blow to him. But who was Chiyu? He was an ambitious and ruthless person who kept his word. Since he said so, it meant that he thought so. Naturally, he would do so. In the end, the people who suffered would be the people of the world. However, no one present felt that there was anything wrong with his words. Instead, they became restless and eager to give it a try. Apart from taking over the world, wasn't the return of the demons for revenge? It was just to expand the target of revenge. Killing a few more people was a common occurrence for the demons. They wouldn't even bat an eyelid. Chiyu's aura was so imposing that no one dared to look straight at him. The 100 Faces Starlord couldn't help but believe his words. This was because he gradually recalled that Chiyu had such a spirit back then. Was he really Chiyu? Why? Wasn't he Tang Zheng? How could these two be the same person? Saint King's eyes flickered with a hint of surprise. If the other party was really Chiyu, it would definitely be good news for the demons. However, his understanding of Chiyu was only passed down from generation to generation. It wasn't detailed, so he subconsciously looked at the 100 Faces Starlord. Among everyone, only the 100 Faces Starlord had seen Chiyu before. Therefore, he had the most right to speak. Seeing that the 100 Faces Starlord was silent, Saint King's heart moved. He already understood a little. However, this was a serious matter. He didn't rush to express his opinion. Instead, he probed. May I ask, what evidence do you have to prove your identity? Chiyu waved his hand impatiently and said, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Quickly set up the Julie Soul Transfer Formation, and help me. Julie Soul Transfer Formation? Many people were baffled and confused. However, Saint King's eyelids twitched. He exclaimed, How do you know about the Julie Soul Transfer Formation? This was a secret of the Julie tribe. It was impossible for outsiders to know about it. Moreover, even among the demons, only a few people in the upper echelons of the demons knew about it. It was said that this was a formation invented by Chiyu. However, the use of this formation had always been criticized. This was because after many generations of research, the demons still couldn't understand the use of this formation. However, every leader of the demons would be required to learn this formation when they inherited it. They would also organize people to practice the formation until they were completely familiar with it. The demons passed it down from generation to generation. Until today, this had never changed. The Julie Soul Transfer Formation was successfully passed down. Of course, there were people who questioned it. They felt that practicing this formation was useless. Why bother? However, it was said that this was instructed by Chiyu. Out of respect and remembrance for Chiyu, no one dared to disrespect this formation and let it stop being passed down. What is the Julie Soul Transfer Formation? The 100 Faces Star-Lord had never heard of this formation. He was also shocked. When Chiyu saw the sage's reaction, he secretly let out a sigh of relief. In the end, these unfilial descendants weren't too stupid. They didn't let the inheritance of this set of array be severed. Otherwise, it would certainly spoil his great plan of 10,000 years. Chapter 11:17. What was the Julie Soul Transfer Formation? Many demons had the same question as the 100 Faces Star-Lord. They all looked at Saint King. Unspecified currency, the pinnacle of novels. Saint King's expression became very serious. It was as if his face was covered with a layer of frost. He asked, "Are you really Ancestor Chiyu?" Chiyu said coldly, "It seems that not all of you are stupid. Since you know about the Julie Soul Transfer Formation, you must know that other than me, the one who created it, no one else knows what it is used for." Saint King was silent. That was indeed the case. Anyway, according to Saint King's knowledge, no one knew the use of the Julie Soul Transfer Formation in all these years. Chiyu wanted to persuade the demons as soon as possible. He continued, "I created the Julie Soul Transfer Formation in the past for today's use. If you continue to dawdle and delay my important matter, you will not be able to redeem yourself even if you die 100 times." These words were very serious. Saint King's expression became more serious. He stared at Chiyu as if he wanted to distinguish the real from the fake. But with his insight, how could he see through Chiyu's real situation? However, he had to admit that whether it was his aura, words, or the secret of the Julie Soul Transfer Formation, it was very convincing. He was the real Chiyu. Julie Soul Transfer Formation quickly set up the formation. Chiyu finally could not stand the demons dawdling and shouted. Although he looked aggressive, he was actually cowardly at heart. He was in imminent danger. In Chiyu's heart, he temporarily had the upper hand and temporarily seized control of Tang Zheng's body. But this was not sustainable. Because relying on his own strength, he could not kill Tang Zheng and destroy his soul. Moreover, there was also the inner demons, which made him even more helpless. Although he could temporarily suppress the inner demons, if he really wanted to imprison him, he had to rely on external forces. That was the Julie Soul Transfer Formation. In the ancient era, when Chiyu created the Julie Soul Transfer Formation, it was to ensure that nothing would go wrong. On the verge of death, he purposely used all of his power to seal a strand of his divine soul into Chiyu's heart. Chiyu's heart was sealed in the prehistoric heavenly tomb, waiting for the fated person. As long as someone obtained the heart of Chiyu, he would be able to possess another body and be reborn. However, things didn't go as planned. Chiyu hadn't expected that a new celestial would obtain Chiyu's heart. Celestials were not ordinary people. In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, he had to lie low and wait for the right time to possess this body. Although many things had happened afterward, the inner demons were still very confident in their possession because they had the Julie Soul Transfer Formation as a backup plan. This formation was a soul transfer formation, a sharp weapon for possession. When the formation was activated, he would circulate his mental cultivation method, and with the cooperation of the inside and outside, he would be able to completely take over Tang Zheng's body and devour Tang Zheng's divine soul. Seeing Chiyu so anxious, Saint King finally made up his mind and roared, "Form the formation!" So. A few people jumped out from the crowd, forming hand seals with their hands as they walked along a certain path. These people were all well-known figures in the demon race, absolute experts. They were one of the few people who had been taught the Julie Soul Transfer Formation. With Saint King's order, they displayed the divine abilities that had long been immersed in their bones and quickly formed the formation. Everyone felt their minds ripple, as if their souls were about to be separated from their bodies. Immediately, many people's faces turned pale, and they panicked. Seeing that, Saint King roared, "Quickly retreat!" In an instant, the demon clan retreated and avoided the range of the Julie Soul Transfer Formation. Qiyu flashed and stood in the center of the Jiuli soul transfer formation. His hands moved and formed hand seals, and a wave spread rapidly in all directions from his palms. Even those who were standing far away felt their minds ripple. 100 Change Star Lord felt it the most clearly. This formation seemed to be difficult for even him to resist. He could not imagine who could resist the attack of this formation. At the same time, he also vaguely guessed something. He muttered to himself. Tang Zheng was probably possessed by Qiyu, and this Jiuli soul transfer formation is probably used to further help Qiyu in his possession. After understanding this point, the 100 Change Star Monarch's expression became very unsightly. He had always vowed to lead the devil race, but the appearance of the Saint Monarch had destroyed this hope of his. Now that Qiyu was reborn, he was even more hopeless. He was not even qualified to stand aside. His eyes flickered, and he thought to himself, if I destroy it now, will all their previous efforts be in vain? At that time, he might still have a chance of survival. However, when he saw Saint King, he had to give up this idea. Saint King's cultivation was higher than his. Moreover, he was injured and was not a match for Saint King. How could he destroy Qiyu's plan? The sage didn't care about the 100 Transformation Star Sovereign's thoughts. He was also a member of the formation. When he saw Qiyu skillfully controlling the formation, he understood that what the other party said was true. It was really Ancestor Qiyu. Suddenly he became excited, and his blood seemed to be boiling. The legend of Qiyu had been passed down for generations among the demon clan. Everyone knew about him, and he was the idol of many demon clan members. One must know that the Jiuli tribe was very powerful and rare. They were a powerful tribe that could fight against the Yellow Emperor. However, ever since Qiyu was defeated, the Jiuli tribe fell apart. After they evolved into the demon clan, they became the target of scorn. Everyone wanted to beat them up, not to mention fighting for the world. In every dynasty, the royal family would use the righteous faction. Many dynasties were even supported by the righteous faction. Although the demon clan did not give up and plan many wars, and even caused chaos in the royal court, causing chaos in the world and changing dynasties, they wanted to benefit from it. However, every time they fought, the establishment of a new dynasty was the success of the forces supported by the righteous faction. Although the forces supported by the demon clan were very powerful and took the initiative, they were short-lived in the end. The repeated failures caused the demon clan to suffer heavy losses. They lost face and their morale was low. Every demon race clansman thought of this and couldn't help but grit their teeth in hatred. The demon clan wanted to make a complete counterattack. After this return, they would be the only ones left in the world. There would be no righteous faction. Then they could successfully control the world and wash away their shame. Moreover, even if the righteous faction returned, they would not be afraid. Because with the reborn Qiyu, the righteous faction would be like chickens and dogs. They would not be able to withstand a single blow, and would be defeated in a single blow. Perhaps, they still wanted to have a direct confrontation with the righteous faction, and defeat them fair and square. Only then would they be able to wash away their shame, and allow the demon clan to rise. These thoughts flashed through his mind. Saint King guarded his mind, and focused on operating the formation. He looked at Qiyu with burning eyes. Qiyu's mouth gradually curved into a smile. The Jiuli soul-shifting formation was indeed extraordinary. His decision back then was really too wise. He had learned from the mistakes of others. Chapter 11:18. In Qiyu's heart, the inner demons took the lead and shouted, "Qiyu, what are you doing?" They had already been sealed in Qiyu's heart, and did not know what was happening in the outside world. Naturally, they did not know that the Jiuli Soul Transfer Array had quietly been activated. Pinnacle Novel. Tang Zheng frowned as he stared at Qiyu. Qiyu laughed sinisterly. "Do you really think I am helpless? I, Qiyu, will never fight a battle that I am not confident in. Since I dare to act, I naturally have a plan." "What the hell is going on with you?" Tang Zheng did not care about the pain of his injuries and asked. He had already lost control of his body, and did not know what was happening in the outside world. However, he knew that the situation outside was not optimistic. Based on the speed of the War Soul Sword, he had already returned to the land. He was afraid that he was surrounded by demons. Chiyu's thoughts could not be clearer. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to gather his former subordinates. If he really succeeded, the strength of the demon clan would increase greatly, and there would be endless disasters. This world would really be hopeless. As for the end of the world that Yin Qingyi predicted, it might really come true. In the scene of her prophecy, she saw Tang Zheng. Could it be that at that time, it was no longer Tang Zheng, but the big Qiyu who had occupied his body? Tang Zheng was shocked by his own guess, and did not dare to let his imagination run wild. He only hoped that there was a way to get out of this predicament and regain control of his body. However, the situation in front of him was not ideal. This sudden appearance of power caused him and the inner demons to tremble from the depths of their souls, as if they could be destroyed by this power at any time. Qiyu enjoyed this feeling very much. He looked at the two of them playfully and said, "There's no harm in telling you. This is the Jiuli Soul Transfer Array that I specially prepared for you. I have been preparing it for tens of thousands of years. Today it has finally come in handy." Jiuli Soul Transfer Array? What's the use of it? Of course it's to destroy your souls and divine sense, leaving me as the owner of this body. Qiyu raised his head and said proudly, "You think you can occupy it just because you say so? What do you take us for?" The inner demon was furious. Tang Zheng retorted with a livid expression, "Qiyu, even if I die, I will never let you off easily." With that, he tipped his toes and rushed up again. Although he had lost both of his arms, he had not completely lost his offensive capabilities. His speed was extremely fast, like a bullet. With a whoosh he arrived in front of Qiyu. "Freeze!" Qiyu lightly glanced at Tang Zheng. He pointed his finger at the void and roared loudly. Tang Zheng found that he had lost the ability to move. It was as if he had been immobilized. He was unable to move and was suspended in front of Qiyu. Tang Zheng's eyes turned as he looked at this scene in disbelief. He tried to regain his freedom, but he found that there was no way. A mysterious and invisible power had firmly imprisoned him and lifted him up. This is the power of the Jiuli Soul Transfer Array. You have finally experienced it. You should be able to die in peace," Qiyu said with killing intent, his eyes flashing. In the next second, Tang Zheng felt as if that mysterious power was about to tear him apart. The intense pain caused his face to look extremely sinister. "No," Tang Zheng hysterically resisted. However, all of this was pale and powerless. It had no effect at all. Pupiyu. His legs were torn apart. His broken legs were torn apart by that mysterious power and disappeared without a trace. "Ah!" Tang Zheng screamed. That pain had almost completely destroyed his nerves. But in the end he clenched his teeth and endured. That was because when he saw the sinister smile on Chiyu's face, he was unwilling to die like this. As expected of a celestial. Even if your cultivation base is weak, your willpower is definitely not something an ordinary person can compare to. Qiyu praised, but he didn't take it to heart. That was because he had absolute confidence. When the inner demons saw this scene, they were truly terrified. They wanted to turn and run, but they found that this was Chiyu's heart. There was no way they could escape. Qiyu saw through the inner demon's intentions. He disdainfully sneered. "Inner demons, you want to run? Didn't you always want to fight me? Back then, I didn't kill you, leaving behind a scourge like you. All of my plans were almost ruined by your hands." Chiyu's hatred for the inner demons grew with each passing day. It had long since accumulated to a point where it could explode. It was just that in the past, he had always endured it. Now that it had completely erupted, he naturally wouldn't let the inner demons off. "You have nowhere to run. Come back." Qiyu grabbed at the inner demons. Although there was a distance between them, that mysterious power immediately enveloped the inner demons. The inner demons didn't immediately become immobile like Tang Zheng. They fiercely struggled, trying to break free from the shackles of this power. But even after struggling for a long time, they still couldn't break free. "Qiyu, let go of me," the inner demons unwillingly roared. "Noisy! I've long since grown tired of listening to you." Qiyu angrily shouted and clenched his hand. "Pa pa pa." The inner demon's body was like firecrackers, continuously ringing out. The inner demons immediately forgot to berate him and let out heart-wrenching screams. Ah! The screams seemed to be able to tear through space. However, the inner demons didn't lose an arm or a leg like Tang Zheng. His divine sense was much stronger than Tang Zheng's. Even the Jiuli soul transfer formation couldn't completely scatter his soul. This was because the inner demons were an anomaly. Back then, Qiyu also didn't expect to meet the inner demons. Naturally, he didn't foresee this situation. However, by relying on the power of the formation, Qiyu could still easily imprison him. He wouldn't be able to resist for eternity. That wasn't much different from directly killing him. There was still plenty of time in the future. Instead, he could torture him, which was even crueler than directly killing him. Stop! The inner demons finally recovered and roared loudly. Qiyu was unmoved and said, "Stop dreaming. Do you think I'll stop? You can slowly enjoy the feast I've prepared for you." As soon as he finished speaking, a bright light lit up on the inner demon's body. This light grew brighter and brighter, until it was like sunlight. It was so dazzling that it was difficult to open one's eyes. These lights intertwined with each other, and eventually formed a cage. The light dissipated and the inner demons opened their eyes. They suddenly discovered that they were actually locked in this cage. This cage didn't have a door. It was a dead end. It was obvious that Qiyu didn't want to let them out at all. Qiyu proudly glanced at the inner demons and said, "This way, you won't be able to make any waves. Unless I take the initiative to open this cage, you'll never see the light of day again." The inner demons struggled to resist the pain in his body, while looking at the cage in despair. He clenched his fists and said through gritted teeth, "Qiyu, you're too ruthless." "Haha, when have I ever been merciful?" Qiyu retorted. The inner demons stared blankly. This was indeed the case. Qiyu was an ambitious and ruthless person who had killed countless people. When had he ever been merciful? Moreover, the inner demons were his enemies. Normally, the inner demons had made sarcastic remarks to him who knew how many times. They were always at odds with him. Tang Zheng looked on helplessly at this scene. He was only left with half of his body, but this was his divine sense. His soul didn't scatter just because he didn't have 4 limbs. However, his heart was sad. He already understood that there was no way to reverse the situation, and that there was no escape. If he had known this would happen, he would have fought to the death with Qiyu in the future. At that time, without the help of the Jiuli soul transfer formation, the result might have been very different. However, regret couldn't change anything. Therefore, Tang Zheng looked on helplessly as Qiyu walked in front of him. He could only stare at him, but it didn't have much killing power. "Tang Zheng, speaking of which, I really didn't think that things would come to this point so quickly. I have to say, I have to thank the 100 Faces Star Lord. If it wasn't for this idiot's stubbornness, I might have to wait for a more suitable time. You might also be able to live a little longer. However, there are no ifs in this world. Now that things have come to this, there's no turning back. I can't let you go. The only way is to kill you and scatter your soul. Only then can I truly take over this body." Although Qiyu now had control of the body, if he didn't completely destroy Tang Zheng's divine sense, it wouldn't last long. Therefore, no matter what, he couldn't just imprison him like the inner demons. Tang Zheng understood his situation and said unwillingly, "Qiyu, the winner takes all. No matter what I say, it won't change the result. Before I die, I only want to ask you one thing. Just treat it as the price you pay for taking over my body. What do you think?" Seeing that Tang Zheng had given up his futile struggle, Qiyu didn't rush to make a move. He pondered for a while and nodded. "Say it. Don't hurt my family and friends." These people were the only ones that Tang Zheng couldn't let go. He could die, but he didn't want these people to be implicated because of him. If that happened, he wouldn't be able to die in peace. Qiyu showed a look of disdain and laughed wildly. "Tang Zheng, I thought you would ask for other conditions. Maybe I would agree to it because I was soft-hearted, but you recklessly asked for this. Do you think I will agree to it?" Tang Zheng's expression changed greatly and asked, "Don't tell me you won't even let them go?" "During the time I was in your body, I understood one thing, and that is that the people around you, although many of their cultivations are not very high, they all have one thing in common, and that is their unswerving loyalty to you. If they knew that you died in my hands, how could they let go of this hatred and live peacefully with me? Qiyu asked. Tang Zheng's eyes darkened. He understood that Qiyu was telling the truth, but at the same time, Qiyu didn't even let these people go. Tang Zheng flew into a rage and roared. Qiyu, why are you so ruthless? They can't threaten you at all. Haha, they can't threaten me for the time being, but that doesn't mean they can't threaten me in the future. I don't like to leave behind future troubles. But you did remind me of one thing. Once I succeed in taking over your body, your family and friends won't know that the owner of this body is no longer Tang Zheng. They will deliberately think that I am you. Hehe, maybe it's not impossible to not kill them for the time being. Besides, you have a few beauties around you. Chapter 11:19. In the face of Tang Zheng's roar, Qiyu was incomparably excited. He said coldly, Don't worry, I'll have them accompany you very soon. So go to hell. With a grab of the big hand, Tang Zheng found that his brain was firmly grasped by a force. It was incomparably painful, and his brain was about to explode. Ah! He screamed again, but it was no use. His eyes were wide open, as if they were about to explode. When the inner demons saw this scene, they were powerless. Despair appeared in their eyes. In the end, they directly turned their heads away, unable to bear to watch this scene. Because their fate had fallen into a hopeless situation because of this. Tang Zheng felt that he was really going to die. There was no turning back. His brain was about to explode, and a crack appeared on his glabella. Suddenly, a golden light rushed out from this crack, dyeing the surroundings golden yellow. A majestic force soared into the sky. Qiyu cried out in alarm and roared. What's going on? The inner demons hurriedly turned their heads, just in time to see this scene. They saw the golden light enveloping Tang Zheng's body, and the pain on his face actually weakened bit by bit. A dragon's might? The inner demons cried out in alarm. A glimmer of hope appeared in Tang Zheng's despairing heart. He felt his whole body relax. The golden light was actually gushing out from the dragon seal. Within the dragon seal, the golden dragon was vivid and lifelike. It shook its head and wagged its tail. With a dragon's roar, it rushed out of the dragon seal and swam around Tang Zheng's body. Immediately, Tang Zheng was enveloped in an intense golden light, exuding a mysterious aura. Seeing this scene, Qiyu cried out, What's going on? Of course, he knew that Tang Zheng had the dragon seal, but he didn't think that the dragon seal would be of any use. In the end, he had great confidence in his Julie soul transfer formation. However, when he discovered this scene, he was a little at a loss. His eyes flashed with a complicated expression as he stared at Tang Zheng. He grabbed with his hand, but the power of the array was unable to deal with Tang Zheng. On the other hand, Tang Zheng's arms and legs grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. This is... Qiyu's eyes widened as he realized that something was wrong. However, he could only watch all of this happen helplessly. Just like Tang Zheng before, he was completely powerless to resist the power of the formation. The eyes of the inner demons lit up, and a smile gradually appeared on his face as he laughed maniacally. Haha, Qiyu, didn't you boast about your success? What about now? This young man is indeed extraordinary. The dragon god arts that he cultivates, even you didn't have the chance to cultivate it back then. Since ancient times, dragons had always been very mysterious. Even the ancient times were no exception. Of course, Qiyu was not as lucky as Tang Zheng to be able to cultivate the dragon god technique. As for the mysteries and wonders of the dragon god technique, he knew nothing about it. You want to turn defeat into victory? Dream on. Qiyu roared with indignation. His body flashed, and he attacked Tang Zheng with both of his fists. The terrifying power of his attacks caused the air to tremble. However, Tang Zheng did not move at all. He saw the two fists, but he was now entangled by the golden dragon and could not move at all. He could only watch as the fists grew bigger and bigger, and came crashing down on his head. Roar! With a dragon roar, the golden dragon opened its mouth towards Qiyu. A beam of golden light shot out of the dragon's mouth and blocked the two huge fists. Qiyu's expression changed drastically, and he could not move forward anymore. A layer of golden light gradually appeared in Tang Zheng's eyes, and his arms and legs grew back. Suddenly, he found that he could move again. He threw a punch, and the golden dragon entwined around his arm. The dragon head and the fist merged into one, and a sword projection flashed, colliding with Chiyu's fist. Boom! With a loud noise, Chiyu staggered back and fell to the ground. The golden light on Tang Zheng's body gradually dissipated, and he returned to his original appearance. However, the golden dragon spat out a golden dragon pearl from its mouth. The golden light flickered, and a golden line was drawn out from the dragon pearl like a silk cocoon. It flew lightly to the top of Tang Zheng's head, and slowly extended into the top of his head. In an instant, Tang Zheng seemed to have become transparent, and the golden line in his body could be seen clearly. At the same time, the 9th meridian in Tang Zheng's yuanying was completely formed. His cultivation improved by leaps and bounds, and he instantly reached the 9th stage of the yuanying realm. The continuous absorption of Chiyu's blood was completely integrated into his yuanying. His cultivation improved again, and he reached the 1st stage of the divine transformation realm. Pa pa pa. A series of strange sounds came from his body, and at the same time, Tang Zheng slowly regained control of his body. Chiyu noticed this and screamed in shock. How could this be? The Jiuli soul-shifting formation had also failed. This was a trap that he had carefully prepared for tens of thousands of years, but it was broken by Tang Zheng so easily. Chiyu realized what kind of situation was waiting for him. His heartstrings trembled, and he actually felt a trace of fear. He could actually feel fear. Not many people would believe him if he told them. But at this moment, he truly experienced this feeling. Tang Zheng regained control of his body, and when he looked around he was shocked. He had indeed returned to the demon race, and there were demons all around him. What should he do? However, he did not have time to pay attention to the other demons for the time being, because the battle in Chiyu's heart was not over yet. Chiyu resisted again, and fiercely attacked Tang Zheng. Break! Tang Zheng growled and punched out again. The entire space trembled violently, as if it was about to be shattered by this punch. Bam! Crack! The two fists collided, and Chiyu's arm was twisted and broken at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, Chiyu flew back like a kite with a broken string. Tang Zheng did not give him a chance to breathe. This time, he was determined to completely destroy Chiyu. Chiyu was also aware of this. While still in midair, he reacted and used the last bit of his power to mobilize the last bit of power of the Jiuli soul-shifting formation. Soul-shifting formation. Chiyu roared. Bam bam bam. A series of explosions sounded, and the members of the Jiuli soul-shifting formation exploded one after another, turning into pools of blood. Except for Saint King, who luckily escaped, no one else survived. This unforeseen event really frightened many people. The people of demon race looked as if they had seen a ghost. They looked at this scene in disbelief, and many people screamed at the top of their lungs. Saint King's face suddenly changed and he asked, "What's going on?" These people who died were the elites of the demon race, and in an instant, they had inexplicably exploded and died. The blow to him was self-evident. Saint King stared at Tang Zheng, hoping that he would give him an answer. But Tang Zheng was no longer Chiyu. How could he give him an answer? He did not even look at him. Looking at this scene, 100 Faces' heart skipped a beat. If Chiyu returned, he would definitely not be able to gain any benefits. It was better to take this opportunity to escape, and wait until he recovered from his injuries before deciding what to do next. With that thought in mind, 100 Faces' Star Sovereign retreated to the back of the crowd without leaving a trace. Seeing that the other people's attention was firmly attracted to the big formation, he quickly disappeared like there was oil under the soles of his feet. No one noticed the 100 Change Starlord because they were truly frightened by this sudden turn of events. Seeing that Tang Zheng did not answer his question, Saint King's heart skipped a beat. He had an ominous premonition that something had happened. "Ancestor Chiyu, what's going on?" Saint King asked unwillingly. Tang Zheng's attention was completely attracted by the matter in Chiyu's heart, and did not pay attention to Saint King. In Chiyu's heart, when Chiyu shouted that sentence, his whole body was suffused with a mysterious light, and then gradually became faintly discernible, like a cloud of fog. "Young man, quickly stop him. His soul is out of his body, and he wants to leave your body." The inner demons were experienced and knowledgeable, and immediately saw through Chiyu's thoughts. Tang Jing nodded fiercely, tipped his toes, and rushed toward Chiyu, shouting, "Stop!" Chiyu glared at Tang Jing fiercely, and hysterically roared, "Tang Jing! I won't let this go, you wait for me." Just as Tang Jing's fist was in front of Chiyu, Chiyu completely faded, and disappeared without a trace. Sigh, he succeeded, his soul is out of his body, truly leaving your body. The inner demons sighed regretfully. Tang Jing's attention shifted to the outside world, and saw a green gas rising from the top of his head, flying into the air. Soul out of body. The sage immediately cried out in alarm as he recognized this scene. "I'm Chiyu's soul, quickly help me." A voice appeared out of nowhere, giving everyone a fright. Saint King had a flash of inspiration, and understood what was going on. He took out a treasure box and hurriedly said, "Ancestor Chiyu, quickly come in." The treasure box lit up with a ray of light, and the green gas was sucked into it. Tang Jing saw this scene, but he did not have time to stop it, because all of this happened too quickly. Chiyu didn't die. Tang Jing fiercely clenched his teeth, and stared at the treasure box, wishing he could immediately rush over and snatch it back. "Kill this brat." Chiyu's voice came from the treasure box. He was only a strand of soul, and could not take the initiative to attack people, so he could only give orders to the other demons. Saint King also understood. Previously, Ancestor Chiyu must have occupied this body, but later on, for some reason, Ancestor Chiyu's soul was out of body, and he was expelled. Saint King's gaze towards Tang Jing also changed. To be able to expel Chiyu from his body, perhaps even he himself was unable to do this. This brat's cultivation did not seem high, it was truly strange. Could it be that celestials were all so extraordinary? Saint King could not understand Tang Jing, but since Chiyu had given the order, he could only carry it out. Thus he hurriedly ordered his subordinates, "Kill him." Some of the demons did not react. Weren't they so respectful to this person just a moment ago? Why did they want to kill him now? These doubts flashed through their minds, but the demons still attacked Tang Jing. Chapter 11:20. Demon Clan rushed over. Tang Jing waved his hand, and the War Soul sword on the ground flew into his hand. However, the War Soul sword started to tremble violently, as if it could leave his hand at any time. Pinnacle novel. Tang Jing frowned. Previously, the War Soul sword was controlled by Chiyu, but now it seemed that the War Soul sword was still under Chiyu's control, and he was actually unable to communicate with the War Soul sword. Of course, he could not let the War Soul sword return to Chiyu's hands. With a thought, he kept the War Soul sword into the Sumera world, cutting off the connection with Chiyu. He immediately took out the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrow, bent the bow and knocked the arrow. With a whoosh, the sun-shooting arrow flew out, piercing through the bodies of the few demon clans at the front, and then whistled through the crowd. Puff, 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 blood splattered everywhere as people fell under the sun-shooting arrow. Seeing his clansmen fall one by one, Saint King's eyes were filled with killing intent. He snorted heavily and said, "You're really strong, fall down for me." The sage spread out his palm, and a fist-sized axe appeared in his palm. The axe radiated a great amount of light, and suddenly became bigger. In the end, it turned into a huge axe, and on its surface, there were complicated veined patterns engraved. Holy artifact! Tang Jing's pupils constricted as he immediately recognized it. "You still have some eyesight. It's your honor to die under my heaven-splitting axe." Saint King pointed his finger, and the heaven-splitting axe flew into the sky. It descended from the sky, and fiercely chopped towards Tang Jing. Tang Jing snorted coldly and said, "You should leave this honor to yourself." Tang Jing moved his mind, and the sun-shooting arrow flew back, transforming into a ray of light, and collided with the heaven-splitting axe. Flowing light overflowed with brilliant colors as it spread out in all directions. The few individuals standing at the very front were affected, and they were directly sliced apart at the waist by this streak of light, dying on the spot. It was a bloody scene. Tang Jing didn't even blink because he retreated a few meters before he could stabilize his body. He stopped and looked at Saint King in shock. He couldn't see through Saint King's cultivation, but there was no doubt that it was higher than his. Moreover, he had the help of a divine weapon like the heaven-splitting axe. Tang Zheng understood that he was no match for him, so he decided to retreat. He didn't want to face the devil race's army head-on. If not for Qi Yu's return, he would have returned to Huaxia long ago. The demon race had the advantage in numbers. Moreover, even Qi Yu had appeared, so he didn't dare to stay any longer. Seeing the sky-splitting axe attack again, Tang Zheng hurriedly dodged, trying to dodge. However, the sky-splitting axe's attack was fast, ruthless, accurate, and flexible. Tang Zheng had nowhere to hide. At this critical moment, a light flashed in Tang Zheng's hand as he summoned the holy armor shield. Bang! A sound wave spread in all directions, and Tang Zheng flew far away like a cannonball. He landed heavily on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Saint King's strength was too strong, and Tang Zheng was no match for him at all. He leaped up like a carp and got up again. He rushed toward the cliff not far away and jumped off the cliff. Whoosh! The War Soul Sword flew back into his hand at the speed of lightning. Splash! Water splashed everywhere, and he fell into the sea. Saint King also caught up, but looking at the boundless sea, he stomped his feet unwillingly, but there was nothing he could do. How useless, you actually let him escape. Qi Yu's voice sounded again, and he reprimanded sternly. Saint King lowered his head, and didn't dare to refute. A person's name, a tree's shadow. Although Qi Yu was only left with a strand of soul, Saint King still didn't dare to disobey him. Ancestor, what should we do next? What about that 100 Faces Star Lord? Qi Yu didn't answer, but asked instead. The sage's heart skipped a beat, and he raised his eyes to look around. There was no sign of the 100 Transformations Star Sovereign. His face immediately turned gloomy like a piece of black charcoal, and he said, "How cunning! I actually let him escape." Humph, both of them escaped. Fine, as long as you guys return, it's only a matter of time before we catch them. With Ancestor here, dealing with them is a piece of cake. Saint King said flatteringly. Qi Yu hadn't enjoyed such treatment for many years. When he was in Tang Zheng's body, he was squeezed until he was choked. However, when he thought of Tang Zheng, Qi Yu was very dissatisfied. This was because Qi Yu's heart stayed in Tang Zheng's body, which was definitely convenient for Tang Zheng. Qi Yu's heart contained too much power and energy. If Tang Zheng completely digested it, his cultivation would definitely rise to another level. In addition, he was only left with a strand of soul. Even if he was reborn, his cultivation would be greatly reduced, and he couldn't be compared to his peak in the past. All in all, the current situation wasn't what he wanted. He carefully planned for so long, but in the end, it ended up like this. Just thinking about it made him angry. First, tell me what's going on in Beyond Heaven. Qi Yu controlled his anger, and asked the question he had always been curious about. In the past, before Mount Buja was broken, he sent many people to explore Beyond Heaven, but these people didn't return, and they didn't bring back any news at all. This matter had always been a regret for him. Now that the Devil Clan had returned, the matter of Beyond Heaven was naturally no longer a secret. Although Saint King didn't know why Qi Yu was so eager to know the situation in Beyond Heaven, his face became bitter when he recalled the various things in Beyond Heaven, and he resentfully explained. As Qi Yu listened, he felt that it was inconceivable, and even exclaimed. Tang Zheng emerged from the sea. He had been swimming for a long time, and was very far away from the Devil Clan. His expression was very solemn. Now, not only had the Devil Clan returned, but even Qi Yu had also left his body and obtained freedom. Now that the Devil Clan and Qi Yu were together, it was obvious that nothing good was going to happen. In the past, he didn't have a strong impression of Qi Yu, although he had always been wary of him. This time he realized that he had really underestimated him. Ordinary people couldn't guess Qi Yu's thoughts, and he was vicious and merciless, definitely not inferior to the 100 Faces Star-Lord, perhaps even surpassing him. Tang Zheng couldn't guess what he was going to do next, but it was definitely not something good. Moreover, the Devil Clan had returned with the hatred of the past, so they were going to go all out, and this world was going to be completely chaotic. Young man, quickly let me out, I'll help you deal with Qi Yu, the inner demon suddenly said. You have a way to deal with him? Of course, back then he and the Yellow Emperor painstakingly sealed me, You should know that I'm a threat to him. As long as you let me out, we can definitely deal with him together. The inner demons couldn't wait to say. When he saw the power of Tang Zheng's dragon seal, he gradually dispelled the idea of taking over Tang Zheng's body. He felt that it was better to find a new body, as long as he could be reborn. Then he would be like a fish swimming into the sea, and no one could stop him. Tang Zheng pondered. The inner demons were definitely not easy to deal with. He actually summoned Qi Yu and the Yellow Emperor to join forces to seal him. One could imagine how big of a threat he was. If he let him go, wouldn't it be like letting a tiger return to the mountain? Seeing Tang Zheng hesitate, the inner demons quickly persuaded. Young man, I'm a man of my word. I'm definitely not a treacherous villain like Qi Yu. As long as you let me out, I'll definitely help you. Okay, then I'll let you out. After a long while, Tang Zheng finally made up his mind. The inner demons were an unknown quantity, but one thing was certain, and that was that the inner demons and Qi Yu were definitely not on the same side, and there would definitely be a fierce battle between the two sides. He hoped that this could temporarily suppress Qi Yu, so that he wouldn't be too arrogant and unscrupulous. Great, you definitely won't regret this decision. The inner demons was overjoyed and quickly complimented. Tang Zheng didn't comment. His divine sense entered Qi Yu's heart, and immediately saw the inner demons trapped in the cage, his face full of expectation. Can't you open this cage yourself? Tang Zheng asked. The inner demons looked bitter. I don't know what method Qi Yu used, but I can't break out of this cage. Then I'll give it a try. Tang Zheng circulated his power and punched the cage. Bang! The loud sound spread far and wide, and the cage trembled a few times, but it was safe and sound. Tang Zheng didn't expect the cage to be so sturdy. He had used all of his power, but he still couldn't shake it. The inner demon's face became more and more ugly. After thinking for a while, he suggested, try using the power of the dragon seal again. Okay. Tang Zheng circulated the dragon god technique, and the golden dragon immediately flew out of the dragon seal and coiled around his arm. Roar! Amidst the dragon's roar, Tang Zheng's fist once again hit the cage. Bang! The sound was louder, and the trembling was more intense, but in the end, the cage still steadily stopped, and there was no sign of it being damaged. The inner demons rolled his eyes and almost fell to the ground, exclaiming, Impossible! How is this possible? There must be a way to open this cage. Tang Zheng remembered Qi Yu's words and said, Qi Yu once said that other than him, no one else can open this cage. The inner demon shook his head and said, Impossible, that was just a trick he used to scare people. There must be another way. Tang Zheng shrugged and said, I've already tried, you saw it too. I can't open the cage, so I can't let you out. Tang Zheng said that this was the will of the heavens, although he wanted to use the inner demons to suppress Qi Yu, but now it seemed that this beautiful hope had been shattered. In fact, this wasn't necessarily a bad thing. After all, the inner demons was an unknown factor, and if he was more dangerous than Qi Yu, then he would have no chance of winning against two powerful enemies. He withdrew from Qi Yu's heart and looked in the direction of the island nation. The wind had long since faded, and there were no dark clouds. Perhaps the rest of the world still didn't know that the island nation had changed, that this country had already perished, and that the people living on it were a group of even more ferocious people. My family definitely doesn't know about this news. I must immediately inform them and let them be fully prepared. The demon race definitely won't just stay on this tiny island nation. They will definitely return to Huaxia. Chapter 11:21. A person flew over from the sky. Her white clothes fluttered in the wind, making her look like an otherworldly fairy. Whoosh! Even though they were far apart, Tang Zheng was able to recognize her from her familiar aura. He leaped up and flew up from the sea. He rushed into the air and shouted, Fu Yao! The Empyrean fairy looked down and saw Tang Zheng. She asked in surprise, Why are you here? The two of them landed on the surface of the sea. Their feet stepped lightly on the water as if they were walking on flat ground. Tang Zheng sighed. It's a long story. Why are you here? The Empyrean fairy could not hide the seriousness between her eyebrows. She glanced in the direction of the island nation and said, I found a strange phenomenon in the island nation. Did something happen? Tang Zheng said solemnly. The devil clan has returned. What? The Empyrean fairy raised her eyebrows. She could not hide her surprise. How many of them? I don't know. Anyway, there are many of them. There are many experts among them. Tang Zheng said in a deep voice. He looked at the Empyrean fairy with a strange look in his eyes. Hey, your aura has changed a lot. Could it be that your power has increased greatly? The Empyrean fairy absorbed the energy of the crystals on the island, so her power would naturally increase. However, Tang Zheng felt different. The Empyrean fairy gave him an unfathomable feeling. This was not as simple as a little improvement. A hint of joy flashed across the Empyrean fairy's face. She said, Didn't your cultivation also improve a lot? You actually reached the first grade of the semi-god realm so quickly. Did you have a fortuitous encounter? Tang Zheng smiled bitterly. It's not a fortuitous encounter. It's just a narrow escape. I almost lost my life. After a pause, Tang Zheng asked again, What's your cultivation level? The first grade of the Mahayana realm. So high. Tang Zheng exclaimed. The Empyrean fairy had only been in the divinity transformation stage. It was commendable for her to break through that threshold so quickly. If it weren't for your crystals, I wouldn't have been able to progress so quickly, Empyrean fairy said emotionally. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. He asked, What about the crystals? The Empyrean fairy understood what he was thinking and said, The crystal has shrunk a lot. In time, it will be completely absorbed. At that time, the scarlet lunar beast will be able to come out. Tang Zheng was overjoyed. That's great. The scarlet lunar beast was hiding too many secrets, especially the secrets about the outer heaven. Once the scarlet lunar beast was freed, perhaps he would have the chance to find out. Besides, now that the demons have returned, Qiyu will definitely know about the situation in the heavens beyond. On the other hand, Tang Zheng and the others were at a loss. He really didn't like this feeling. You just said that you had a narrow escape. Could it be related to the return of the demons? You've already fought them head-on? The Empyrean maiden suddenly thought of something and asked curiously. Tang Zheng smiled bitterly. You guessed right. Let me tell you bit by bit. After Tang Zheng finished speaking, the Empyrean fairy fell into deep thought. Her expression became more and more serious. She said, Qiyu and the inner demons have always been in your body. Obviously, this was unexpected news. Tang Zheng didn't mention it to anyone else. Tang Zheng nodded. At this point, there was no need to hide it anymore. The Empyrean fairy looked at him deeply. She didn't pursue the matter. She understood that everyone had their own secrets. It was impossible to tell everyone. The ever-changing Star-Lord is such a troublemaker. He actually activated the mountains and rivers blood sacrifice formation and used the lives of an entire nation to summon the demons back. He's insane. The Empyrean fairy said in a stern voice. At this point, we should think of a countermeasure. The demons have Qiyu and so many experts. We may not be their match. Tang Zheng said in a deep voice. The Empyrean fairy nodded. If I didn't meet you, I would definitely make a trip to the island nation. Since that's the case, there's no need to go. The Empyrean fairy wasn't afraid of the demons. She knew that what was done. Even if she went to the island nation, she wouldn't be able to change the situation. On the contrary, it would let the demons know that she had reached the Grand Ascension realm. They would be more cautious and have fewer openings. The demons were currently very arrogant. They would definitely make a rash move and make mistakes. Once this mistake was made, they would be able to give them a fatal blow. This was a brilliant countermeasure. Tang Zheng was extremely intelligent and immediately understood the Empyrean fairy's thoughts. He said, Let's go home first. In the capital, when they returned, they found that there were many strange people around their house. However, because of the protection of the formation, these people could only watch from afar and couldn't set foot in the villa. When they saw Tang Zheng return, there was a strange movement in this group of people. Tang Zheng coldly swept a glance and saw a person walking over with large strides. Tang Zheng stopped and narrowed his eyes. He judged that this person was definitely from the government because of his official aura. Sure enough, this person walked in front of Tang Zheng and said with a serious expression, Tang Zheng, please come with us and cooperate with an investigation. Tang Zheng frowned and asked, what investigation? Everyone knows what you have done in the island nation. Kidnapping the emperor in front of everyone has already caused a dispute between countries. The island nation has already protested to us and asked us to hand you over. Tang Zheng's mouth revealed a trace of ridicule and said, it seems like you don't know what happened in the island nation. Of course I know. Kidnapping the emperor is an extremely terrible and terrifying act. You will become the public enemy of the entire world. Tang Zheng was already sure that this person did not understand the real situation, and asked back, the island nation no longer exists, what's the use of threatening me? No longer exists? What nonsense are you talking about? Do you think you can escape responsibility with this nonsense? Tang Zheng rolled his eyes. He was too lazy to waste his breath on someone who did not understand the situation. He turned and walked while saying, I'm in a bad mood, you better not ask for a rebuff. If you want to capture me, I'll be waiting for you. You better go back and understand the situation. What exactly happened in the island nation? Stop. The person who came shouted loudly. His mission was to bring Tang Zheng back for investigation, but he did not expect that Tang Zheng would not cooperate at all. Just as he was about to reach out and grab him, he found that he had touched an invisible wall. Then he was fiercely bounced back and sat on the ground, watching Tang Zheng enter the villa. Tang Zheng did not have the energy to pay attention to such a small character. As for who he was on, he was not at all interested. Compared to the intrigue in the officialdom, the demon race was the most troublesome problem. Tian Chanzi had already received a call and was waiting at home. He was someone who had seen the Mountain River blood sacrifice array with his own eyes, so although he was far away, he was still certain that the island nation had activated the Mountain River blood sacrifice array again. He was about to rush over to investigate when he received a call from Tang Zheng. After a few words of explanation, he anxiously waited at home. He paced back and forth, the floor almost cracking from his footsteps. The others also returned home one after another, their expressions grave. Although they did not know what exactly had happened, they had already realized that the matter was definitely very serious. Otherwise, Tang Zheng would not have called them back one by one. And even Tang Linger and Princess N were called back. Only Mu Hongyan was still dealing with the follow-up problems in the pharmaceutical factory, and could not return for the time being. However, he had also sent more Witch Clan warriors to protect him, with Yi Yuan personally leading the team. When the two of them returned to the villa, a ray of light flashed in the backyard, and the transmission array was activated. After the light disappeared, the Witch Clan elder appeared. The hall of the villa was already filled with people. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu were also among them. When Tang Zheng and Empyrean Fairy walked in, everyone immediately looked at him in unison, and many people stood up. Tian Chanzi suddenly stopped in his tracks, walked towards him with long strides, and asked, You said that the demon clan has returned. What exactly is going on? He did not explain it clearly on the phone, but Tian Chanzi's heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat, as he desperately wanted to know more details. The others did not know about the return of the demon clan, but when they heard this, they were all shocked and looked at Tang Zheng without blinking. Tang Zheng's expression was serious. He swept his gaze across the crowd, looked at their worried expressions and said, The demon clan has indeed returned, and it is not like last time when there were only 100 or so people. This time, there are thousands of people, and it is the main force of the demon clan. The demon clan was a part of the cultivators, and they were cruel and unscrupulous. Back then, New Era had expelled them to the sky beyond heaven, and now that they had returned in large numbers, they would definitely come for revenge. At that time, they would definitely be in a terrible situation. And as for how the demon clan returned, all of this was caused by the 100 Transformation Star Lord. Tang Zheng spoke tirelessly, explaining the whole story clearly. When everyone heard that the island nation had been annihilated, they all turned pale with fright and cried out in alarm. A chill ran from the soles of their feet to the top of their heads. This move of the 100 Transformation Star Lord was indeed too ruthless. The hall was very quiet. No one spoke for a long time, as they were all immersed in shock. When the witch clan elder heard that Chiyu was not dead, the wrinkles on his face trembled a little, and his expression was complicated. Seeing that no one else spoke, the elder said, "Sir Envoy, Chiyu is the ancestor of the witch clan, and has a deep relationship with the witch clan. Can we persuade him to stop and not harm innocent people?" Tang Zheng looked deeply at the elder. This time, he had specially invited the elder over because he did not want to hide it from him. The witch clan was a member of the Ninely tribe, and had a deep relationship with Chiyu. If he did not tell him the truth now, it would cause him to be unhappy in the future. As for what the witch clan would choose, he believed in his own judgment. He had been in contact with the witch clan for so long, and he thought that he understood the witch clan very well. The witch clan was a simple and kind race. They did not have the cruelty and ruthlessness of the demon clan. Furthermore, the elder was a kind-hearted person. The elder was nervous. Seeing Tang Zheng look over, he hurriedly added, "Sir Envoy, I will take the initiative to go and talk to him." Chapter 11:22. Although Tang Zheng did not agree with his opinion, the elder was not angry. Compared to the rumors of Chiyu, he trusted Tang Zheng even more. If not for Tang Zheng, the witch clan would probably still be trapped in the 10,000 huge mountains. Tang Zheng had given the witch clan a new lease on life, and the entire witch clan was deeply grateful. "Then what should we do, Lord Envoy?" Tang Zheng fell into deep thought, and the others also fell into deep thought. Suddenly, Tian Chanzi raised his head and said, "We are weak, even with the addition of the martial artists. We are not a match for the devil clan. We must find help." "Where is the helper? Could it be that we are going to find Lord Ji Wuxiang?" Wu Junshan asked doubtfully. Wu Junshan and Ji Wuxiang's enmity was not small. How could he bow his head to him? Tian Chanzi shook his head. Ji Wuxiang may not be a match for the devil clan. For thousands of years, who is the only one who can resist the devil clan? The righteous path. Everyone thought of an answer in their hearts. The devil clan was very united, but the righteous path was a large-scale concept. The righteous path was derived from the Yellow Emperor's tribe, and eventually evolved into many sections. These sects were not as united as the devil clan, and each of them governed their own affairs. Although their combined strength was strong, they had not completely exterminated the devil clan after so many years. Tian Chanzi's original sect, Kingsman, was one of the righteous sections. Tian Chanzi was naturally a member of the righteous path, and naturally thought of this countermeasure. However, everyone knew that the righteous path had been expelled to the sky beyond heaven, so where could they find the righteous path? Tian Chanzi turned his head and looked at Tang Zheng with a burning gaze and asked, "Heaven and Earth Xian Stone, how many have you collected?" Tang Zheng's head moved and said, "You want to rebuild the heaven stairway?" Tian Chanzi did not deny it and said, "This is the only way." Tang Zheng's expression became serious. He couldn't help but think of Yanqingyi's prophecy about the end of the world. The stairway to heaven was mentioned in the prophecy. In that scene, the stairway to heaven had been successfully rebuilt. Tian Chanzi suggested to rebuild heavenly chess. Could it be that the prophecy was going to come true? Tang Zheng subconsciously rejected the idea of reforging the stairway to heaven. No, the sky beyond heaven is definitely not a paradise. Otherwise, the devil race would not have gone through so much trouble to come back to this world. If we reconstruct the stairway to heaven and connect it to the sky beyond heaven, what if something goes wrong? Tang Zheng raised his concerns. Tian Chanzi disagreed and said, "We can't guess the demon race's thoughts. As for the dangers of the sky beyond heaven, there is also a righteous path. As long as we take back the righteous path, then destroy the stairway to heaven. This way, we can fight back against the demons and prevent this world from falling into the hands of the demons." Tang Zheng obviously understood that this was a method, but he still subconsciously resisted this point and chose to remain silent. Tian Chanzi asked, "Tang Zheng, when you were collecting heaven and earth black stones, there were a total of 99 heaven and earth black stones. Did you collect them all?" Hearing about heaven and earth black stones, Tang Zheng's eyes flashed with a bright light and said, "Who said it has to be the righteous path? I have a way to deal with the demons." "What way?" Everyone was very curious and looked at him without blinking. Release the five-clawed golden dragon, Tang Zheng said in a powerful voice. This sentence gave everyone a fright. Many people's faces changed, and many more people revealed doubtful expressions. One of them was Princess Anne. She did not know that there was a dragon in the imperial city. Absolutely not. The five-clawed golden dragon is not a small matter. This is a divine beast. If it goes out of control, it will cause more harm than the demons. The mysterious maiden of the 9 heavens said thoughtfully. That's one way. During the battle of the imperial city, she, Tang Zheng, and the 100 Transformation Star Lord had personally witnessed Tang Zheng's actions of suppressing the five-clawed golden dragon, leaving a deep impression on her. When the others saw that Empyrean Fairy supported Tang Zheng, their expressions were different. Feng Shishir said, Tang Zheng definitely has his reasons for making this decision. Yi Dingdang, Wu and Lu Qingmei nodded at the same time. In the hearts of these women, of course they unconditionally believed in Tang Zheng. The others were hesitant. Tang Zheng glanced at Empyrean Fairy and said, although the five-clawed golden dragon is a divine beast and is extraordinary, I can control it and make it not dare to stir up trouble. This way, we can resist the demons. Will it listen to your orders? Lan Yu asked worriedly. As a mother, she was most worried about her son's safety. Tang Zheng smiled and said, this is not up to it. The five-clawed golden dragon's brain had his soul imprint. Even if it wanted to resist, it could not. Moreover, the five-clawed golden dragon still needed him to escape, so it was even more impossible for it to go against Tang Zheng's wishes. In addition, there were still heaven and earth profound stones buried under the imperial city. Once he released the five-clawed golden dragon, he could naturally take out the heaven and earth profound stones. The other heaven and earth profound stones were buried around the tree of life. Then he would have all 99 heaven and earth profound stones. Even if he really wanted to reforge the stairway to heaven, he could do it. Of course, reforging the heavenly chest was a last resort. He would not make this decision until the very last moment. You can rest assured. Although the five-clawed golden dragon is powerful, it must listen to Tang Zheng. Empyrean Fairy testified for Tang Zheng. Tian Chanzi looked left at Tang Zheng, right at Empyrean Fairy, and resentfully said, since that is the case, then we can give it a try. The others pondered for a while and nodded in agreement. Tang Zheng, do you need me to do anything? I can ask my father Emperor for help. And suddenly said, not at the moment. How are your jewels coming along? Tang Zheng casually asked. Anne's face lit up with joy and said, we have already held a small-scale auction and sold for a high price. Later on, we will hold a large-scale jewelry exhibition and auction. It will definitely sell for an even higher price. What do you want to do with this money? To be honest, when Tang Zheng handed over so many jewels to Anne without saying anything, Anne was also a bit overwhelmed. Even if she was a princess and had seen countless treasures, she was still shocked by the actions of a tycoon like Tang Zheng. She was ecstatic, not because of the jewels but because of Tang Zheng's trust. Therefore, she worked very hard to sell these jewels, hoping to sell them for a good price. You can discuss the money with Director Mu. Tang Zheng said indifferently. He didn't intervene in business matters. So much money was of no use to him. Of course, he had to hand it over to Mu Hongyan to manage. And nodded, indicating that she understood. Everyone, try not to go out during this time. With the protection of the Great Array, our safety can be guaranteed for the time being. But without the Great Array, it won't be so easy. Linger, you also stay here. You have worked hard for a long time to hold the concert. Now just treat it as a vacation. Tang Zheng said. If it weren't for everyone's safety, it would be impossible for him to call everyone back. Should we inform the government about this news? Lan Yu asked. Previously, the government sent people to take me away for investigation. I have already instructed them, so they will naturally investigate. Tang Zheng said. If this news is spread, it will definitely cause panic in society. I don't know what kind of chaos the world will become. Tang Zheng sighed. This is an unavoidable problem. The return of the demon race and the destruction of the island nation. This is something that cannot be hidden from the public. Even if the government deliberately hides it and builds a wall to deceive the public, this is only a temporary method. The public will eventually know the truth. If society is in chaos, it will not be good for the public. Hearing this, everyone's mood became more and more depressed. At the same time, there was a picture in front of the chief. This was the satellite image taken by the near-Earth satellite. It was the image when the Mountain River blood sacrifice array was activated. Black clouds covered the sky and a huge black hole appeared in the dark clouds. A group of people appeared out of thin air, and then descended. After the black clouds dissipated, the ground was a mess. It was as if a typhoon had passed through. It was dead silent. Among the ruins, many broken limbs could be faintly seen. Blood flowed like a river. It was like hell on earth. Other than the demon race that had descended, there was no one else. The hundreds of millions of citizens of the island nation had disappeared. Even though they were only looking at the photo, a gust of cold air could be felt through the photo, making them shudder. The chief shuddered and shook his head. He reprimanded. The demon race has descended. The island nation has been destroyed. Why didn't you have any information beforehand? Chief, please calm down. We also don't know who activated the Mountain River blood sacrifice array. Moreover, this array is more powerful than before. No one would have thought that someone would use an entire country as the price in exchange for the return of the demon race. The subordinate answered submissively. He tried his best to suppress the trembling in his voice. Then who activated the Mountain River blood sacrifice array? The chief took a deep breath, but he was still unable to suppress his anger. From the picture, it was clear that the return of the demon race's army would be a huge test and crisis for the government. No matter how resourceful and confident the chief was, he couldn't help but feel uneasy and guilty. He was becoming more and more aware of the power of cultivators. The subordinate almost buried his head in his knees. He answered in fear. We also don't know. At that time, there was only Tang Zheng the Emperor and the Hundred Faces Star Lord. However, according to our previous experience, the Hundred Faces Star Lord had activated the Mountain River blood sacrifice array once. This time, it might have been his doing. The satellite images were taken intermittently. They could only see the general sequence of events. The specific details couldn't be seen clearly. The chief's eyes flashed. He retorted, "You didn't see it with your own eyes. How do you know it must be him?" The subordinate was stunned. He couldn't understand the chief's thoughts. He stared at him blankly, not knowing what to do. The chief's finger moved around the picture. Suddenly, it stopped on Tang Zheng. He said thoughtfully, "Can't it be him?" Tang Zheng? The subordinate was stunned. He was really shocked by this sentence. Didn't Tang Zheng always oppose the Mountain River blood sacrifice array? Why would he go to Japan to activate the array formation? Why would he do something so out of character? Of course, he didn't ask this question. He wasn't stupid. He immediately understood the chief's thoughts. Chapter 11:23. The subordinate understood and looked at the bureau chief in awe. He couldn't help but feel pity for Tang Zheng. There were probably not many people in the world who were more wrong than him in this unexpected calamity. Is an element of. He could foresee what awaited Tang Zheng next. The other countries and forces will definitely know about this news. If you spread it out like this, the remnants of the island nation will definitely seek revenge on him. The bureau chief said coldly. Yes, bureau chief. The subordinate accepted the order and left. A cold light flashed in the bureau chief's eyes. He was filled with murderous intent as he muttered to himself. Tang Zheng, you only have yourself to blame. Who asked you to go against me time and time again? Clap clap. A round of applause suddenly sounded. The bureau chief was so scared that his whole body trembled. He bounced up from the chair as if he had been electrocuted and exclaimed, "Who is it?" He turned his head abruptly and saw a person standing behind him. Ji Wuxiang. The bureau chief's pupils constricted as he stared straight at the other party. His expression became very stern. You still dare to come here? Suddenly, the bureau chief realized something and exclaimed, How did you get in? This was an impenetrable fortress with tight security. Not to mention the rumor that Ji Wuxiang didn't know any martial arts. Even if he was an expert, it would be extremely difficult for him to appear behind him without a sound. This was definitely a major mistake in the security system. Ji Wuxiang looked at him with a smile and said, "Haven't you been looking for me? Aren't I here now? Bureau chief, you really have good methods. Without shedding any blood, with just a few simple words, you have made Tang Zheng the public enemy. I admire you, I admire you." Although he said that, there was a hint of mockery in his words, which made the bureau chief very angry. He couldn't help but scold him furiously. "Don't talk nonsense. This matter was originally done by Tang Zheng. How can I accuse him unjustly? Since you say it's not unjustly, then it's not." Ji Wuxiang shrugged and didn't intend to dwell on this matter. "How did you get in?" the bureau chief asked again, unwilling to give up. "Although your place is heavily guarded like an iron bastion, and may be effective against others, for me, it is as easy as walking on flat ground," Ji Wuxiang said confidently. The bureau chief furrowed his brows. He was enraged by this provocation. "Your backer has already fallen, and you still dare to come here? Humph, looks like you're not as smart as the rumors say. You also have a stupid side," the bureau chief said sarcastically in disdain. Ji Wuxiang was unmoved and said, "You're not qualified to judge whether I'm smart or not. As for my backer, let me tell you, I don't need to rely on him anymore." "What right do you have to say that? Without a backer you're nothing," the bureau chief mocked. Ji Wuxiang put on a fake smile and said, "That's not necessarily true. When have you ever seen a great lord need a backer? He himself is the backer." "Haha, you dare to compare yourself to the Azure Dragon Hall Great Lord?" Ji Wuxiang was unmoved and sighed, saying, "Looks like you really don't understand the current situation. You've been looking for the Great Lord's whereabouts, haven't you?" The bureau chief's eyelids twitched and he asked, "You know where he is?" The bureau chief was very curious about the Great Lord's whereabouts. After they parted, the Great Lord seemed to have disappeared from the face of the earth. There was no trace of him. "Haha, of course I know. I'm afraid no one in this world knows the answer to this question better than me." Ji Wuxiang laughed loudly. "You're that close to the Great Lord?" The bureau chief was shocked. "Of course, because I am the Great Lord." Ji Wuxiang's gaze turned cold as he stared straight at the bureau chief and said firmly, "What?" The bureau chief was stunned. He looked at Ji Wuxiang from head to toe as if he wanted to see the similarities between him and the Great Lord. But after looking for a long time, he still didn't think that Ji Wuxiang was the Great Lord. The bureau chief mocked, "Ha ha ha, you're really delusional. Do you think you can fool my mother with this kind of question? Why would I lie to you?" Ji Wuxiang shook his head and said emotionally, "I'm here to find you to cooperate." "Humph, what qualifications do you have to cooperate with me?" the bureau chief said disdainfully and suddenly pressed the alarm beside him. Woo woo woo. The alarm went off and the door was suddenly pushed open. A few palace experts rushed in. When they saw Ji Wuxiang in the room, they were all shocked. They acted as if they were facing a great enemy and attacked him without saying anything. Ji Wuxiang didn't even turn his head. He didn't even need to look with his eyes. His finger lightly tapped the air a few times. Bang bang bang. A few palace experts were thrown out one after another. They fell to the ground pathetically and couldn't get up again. The bureau chief looked at Ji Wuxiang as if he had seen a ghost and said, "How are you so powerful?" Ji Wuxiang casually sat on the chair and looked straight at the bureau chief. He asked in return, "Why can't I be so powerful? Didn't I already tell you just now? I am the Great Lord." The bureau chief's expression kept changing. He didn't believe this at first and thought it was nonsense. But after seeing his actions just now, he was more and more convinced that he was the Great Lord. This change was very strange and made the bureau chief feel a little uneasy. This was a question he had never thought about before. Back then, when Ji Wuxiang fought with Tang Zheng, he even used a jura. Because of the celestial chess, the chess club was cut off from the outside world. So no one knew about Ji Wuxiang's true identity. Even the bureau chief was no exception. Ji Wuxiang looked deeply at the bureau chief, as if he had seen through his thoughts. He said, "Since you already believe this, then we can continue our discussion. What do you want?" The bureau chief's expression kept changing as he asked, "Didn't I tell you before? Cooperation," Ji Wuxiang said lightly. Cooperation in what way? The bureau chief's vigilance towards Ji Wuxiang had reached an unprecedented level. Ji Wuxiang had hidden it so deeply. He must have a plan. And coming to find him at this time, it probably wasn't anything good. Ji Wuxiang didn't care about the bureau chief's thoughts and said, "You already know about the return of the devil clan. Next, if we cooperate, we can ensure that this country will be safe from disaster." The bureau chief's heart moved. He didn't have a good idea about the return of the devil clan. Since Ji Wuxiang came knocking on his door, why not listen to his idea? "What idea do you have?" "I've created a celestial chess. This celestial chess is equivalent to a defensive array. It can protect this country from the attack of the devil clan." Ji Wuxiang said solemnly. The bureau chief snorted. "Don't think that I don't know about arrays. What array can protect a country? Our country is so big. What kind of array formation could be so powerful?" Ji Wuxiang said confidently, "Other arrays can't. But my celestial chess is worlds apart from arrays. You can only understand it as an array. In short, you have no other choice but to cooperate with me. My celestial chess can protect you. Otherwise, the island nation will be your lesson." The bureau chief's eyelids twitched. "Don't scare me. The Great Huaxia isn't something that an island nation can compare to. With the return of the devil clan, do you think there's any difference between an island nation and Huaxia?" "Ji Wuxiang, the devil clan was expelled from this world by you martial artists. Even if they return, they will first find you martial artists for revenge. Especially your Azure Dragon Palace, which is the direct line of New Era. Tell me, if the devil clan knows about this, will they come to deal with me or deal with you first?" The bureau chief didn't give up and retorted with certainty. Ji Wuxiang wasn't afraid. The Azure Dragon Palace was left behind by New Era. But do you think that the devil clan is so benevolent? This time, with their return, without the suppression of the righteous path, won't they get involved in this great country? You're thinking too simply. The bureau chief's heart skipped a beat. He had to admit that Ji Wuxiang had hit the nail on the head. What he was most afraid of was that the devil clan would target the authorities. That would make them anxious. The bureau chief's expression flickered. He glanced at Ji Wuxiang and said, "There's no free lunch in this world. You said that the heavenly chess can protect Huaxia. What's in it for you? Also, you can't be doing this for free, right?" Ji Wuxiang smiled and said, "The bureau chief is a smart person. Of course I have conditions." "What conditions?" "The heavenly chess is not perfect yet. I need you to help me perfect it." The bureau chief was stunned for a moment, then laughed out loud. "I thought that the heavenly chess was very powerful. So it's not complete at all. That's just your imagination. I'm not lying at all. It's just that the heavenly chess is not perfect. As long as you help me, in the future, Huaxia will be a country that no one can attack. The other countries can only bow down to you. The ceremony of all nations. You don't want this kind of prosperous era, right?" Ceremony of all nations. This sentence undoubtedly hit the bureau chief's soft spot. As a person in power, what was his greatest wish? To leave his name in history and be passed down through the ages. If Huaxia could really recreate the prosperous era of the ancient ceremony of all nations, then he would definitely be able to achieve his wish. The bureau chief hesitated for a long time before asking, "Then how can I perfect the heavenly chess?" "The heavenly chess needs the power of the stars to be completely perfect. I can activate the heavenly chess and make the power of the stars descend. However, this speed is too slow, so I need enough people to practice the heavenly chess. From there, I need enough people to practice the heavenly chess in the shortest time possible, so that the heavenly chess can absorb enough power of the stars. Then I will succeed and achieve the goal of protecting the whole of Huaxia." Ji Wuxiang said, "What can I help you with?" "People." Ji Wuxiang stretched out a finger. "I need 100,000 people to practice the heavenly chess." "So many people?" "Yes, and these 100,000 people must be well trained and listen to orders. In this world, only soldiers can do this. So I need you to give the order to gather 100,000 well-trained elite soldiers to help me." This was the idea that Ji Wuxiang came up with after thinking hard for a long time. Tang Zheng couldn't help him perfect the heavenly chess. In fact, He even lost a few of the chess players that he had painstakingly trained for many years. It was very difficult for him to perfect the heavenly chess. Chapter 1124. The bureau chief looked at Ji Wuxiang in shock. He didn't expect him to be so whimsical as to have designs on the military pinnacle novel. Ji Wuxiang looked at the bureau chief meaningfully. He believed that the other party couldn't reject his condition, because the bureau chief had no other choice. Finally, the bureau chief pondered for a long time, then said, "Okay, I promise you, but I must control heavenly chess." Ji Wuxiang didn't mind at all. "I asked you to send people to practice heavenly chess. I don't have any intention of keeping it to myself. In the future, we will need heavenly chess to protect this huge country. You should naturally control it." The bureau chief stared at Ji Wuxiang. He didn't completely believe him. But since Ji Wuxiang needed his help, then naturally he couldn't completely guarantee the secret. Once he gave the order, there would naturally be people who would discover the secret of heavenly chess. Even if Ji Wuxiang had ulterior motives, the bureau chief wasn't afraid at all. Ji Wuxiang sneered in his heart. He had long seen through the bureau chief's thoughts. He thought disdainfully, if the secret of heavenly chess could be discovered so easily, then why would I spend so many years researching it? Both of them had their own thoughts. They could be considered to have reached a preliminary cooperation. How are you going to deal with Tang Zheng? Before leaving, Ji Wuxiang asked curiously. The bureau chief sneered and said, "After the truth is announced, the world will naturally have a judgment of him. As for what the world will do, that's not something I can control. Why would I need to interfere? Borrowing someone else's knife to kill?" Ji Wuxiang sneered in his heart, but didn't say it out loud. He didn't believe that Tang Zheng would be defeated so easily, but as long as Tang Zheng's energy was restrained, then he would have enough time to perfect heavenly chess. Actually, Ji Wuxiang wasn't in such a hurry to perfect heavenly chess, but 100 Change Star Lord activated the Mountain River Blood Sacrifice Array and summoned the demons back, disrupting his steps. He had no choice but to bring it forward. 100 Change Star Lord, this troublemaker, colluded with the demons. I'm afraid he will be even more arrogant. Ji Wuxiang did not know that the 100 Change Star Sovereign had already escaped from the demon race, and that the person in charge of the demon race was Qiyu. Huaxia wasn't the only country that noticed the changes in the island nation through satellite surveillance. Other countries also noticed it one after another. Shocking photos were released one after another. In addition, the day before, Tang Zheng had kidnapped Emperor Hirohito in front of everyone. Immediately, all the spearheads were pointed at Tang Zheng, believing that he was the culprit behind the destruction of the island nation. His name immediately resounded throughout the world, but it was not a good reputation but a notorious one. He was like a rat crossing the street, and everyone wanted to beat him. Many countries issued harsh condemnations one after another. Among them, the Atlantic Empire's words were particularly sharp, directly classifying Tang Zheng as the public enemy of humanity, the biggest leader of the terrorist group that was eliminated a few years ago. Huaxia was also unwilling to be left behind. She strongly condemned and cut ties with Tang Zheng, indicating that Huaxia had nothing to do with this matter. Of course, there were exceptions. Sweden chose to remain silent. However, the King of Sweden immediately called to ask about the whole story. Seeing that Sweden did not add insult to injury, Tang Zheng did not hide anything. He roughly explained what had happened in the island nation and the dangerous situation in front of them. No matter how turbulent the situation outside was, Tang Zheng did not take it to heart at all, as if he had nothing to do with it. However, other people were indignant and wanted to seek justice for him. Someone must have fanned the flames and deliberately poured dirty water on you. We can't just let it go. Feng Shishir was kind-hearted, but she was also angered by this matter. If other people were targeting him, she could choose to turn a blind eye, but the other party was targeting her beloved. She couldn't stand it. Yi Dingdang had a fiery temper and hated evil. She clenched her fists and gritted her teeth in hatred. If the tiger doesn't show its power, do you think we're sick cats? This matter couldn't be clearer. Who has the power to announce this news to the world? Everyone is well aware of this. Chief. This answer popped up in everyone's minds at the same time. It was no secret that Tang Zheng and the chief did not get along. They were just at peace for the time being. Moreover, he had sent people to try to take him away. These people were rejected and must have held a grudge, so they deliberately poured dirty water on him. What a ruthless move. Everyone had the same thought in their minds. They were furious and wanted nothing more than to rush into the courtyard house with high walls and confront him face to face. They wanted to explain everything clearly. Tang Zheng, on the other hand, was the quietest and did not mind. He lightly looked at the crowd and advised, "Everyone, don't be so agitated. Their mouths are on their bodies. Let them say what they want. It's not like I will lose a piece of meat. This is a matter of reputation. Moreover, this crime is too serious. It's simply against humanity. How can we sit back and do nothing?" Tang Zheng faintly smiled and said, "Since he used this kind of despicable method of pointing at a deer as a horse, it means that he has reached the end of his rope, so we can be at ease." Even though everyone admitted that Tang Zheng's words made sense, they still couldn't swallow their anger. Lan Yu stood up and said, "I'll go settle the score with him. He dares to slander my son. I think he doesn't want to live anymore." In the eyes of a mother, no matter how great her authority was, it was still zero. How could she possibly be afraid? Wu Junshan gave Tang Zheng a deep look, but did not say anything. Tang Zheng wanted to persuade him again, but he saw someone push open the door and walk in. "And why are you guys here?" The people who came were Yen Potion's family and Qin Batian. Their expressions were extremely serious, as if the sky was about to collapse. Looking at the crowd sitting in a circle, their expressions became even more serious. "Young Master Tang, did you hear the rumors outside? What exactly is going on?" Yen Patian asked impatiently. "Sit down first, we'll tell you slowly." Tang Zheng pointed to the sofa and said calmly. The few of them looked at him curiously and solemnly. They sat down and listened to Tang Zheng's tireless explanation of the situation. The few of them were shocked, and Yen Patian immediately jumped up from the sofa. "You said the demon clan has returned?" Tang Zheng nodded. 100 transformations Star-Lord summoned back the demon clan. Yen Patian sucked in a breath of cold air and said, "This person is really a madman. Isn't it like the rumors say that you destroyed the island nation? Am I that crazy?" Tang Zheng laughed bitterly. The few of them subconsciously shook their heads. "Who is so vicious to actually make you take this blame?" "Chief," Yi Dingdang could not wait and blurted out. The few of them looked at each other. "Don't worry, this is a sign that you're at your wit's end," Tang Zheng said. "Young Master Tang, you are magnanimous, you can ignore it, but this is a big matter. You have no choice but to come up with a plan. Otherwise, after your reputation is ruined, the impact on you will be too bad." Yen Patian said earnestly. "Yes, we can't remain silent." Qin Batian nodded. Tang Zheng was a great benefactor to him, and seeing that his benefactor had been framed, he was also holding back a wave of anger in his heart. "Everyone, you really don't need to care about this. The most important thing right now is to deal with the demon clan. You must be careful when you return. If there are any abnormalities, tell me immediately. You must not use force," Tang Zheng warned. The few of them nodded in agreement with different expressions. Yan Qingyi took a step forward, looked at Tang Zheng with a burning gaze, and said, "I prophesied a new scene." Hearing this, everyone was shocked and looked at her. Everyone knew that Yan Qingyi's prophecy technique was extremely profound. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Yan Qingyi looked at Tang Zheng with a puzzled expression, and said, "The scene of the prophecy this time is extremely strange. It is a great battle between two camps, the heavens and the earth. The earth and sky are turned upside down. It is extremely tragic." "A battle between two camps?" Tang Zheng was slightly startled. "Are we among them?" Yan Qingyi thought for a while, then shook his head and said, "I didn't see you guys this time, but I am sure that it is still our world. These two groups of people are obviously cultivators, and their fighting strength is extremely strong." Everyone looked at each other, feeling extremely puzzled. "Do you know anyone among them?" Tang Zheng narrowed his eyes and asked. "Yes," Yan Qingyi said in an earth-shattering manner. "Who?" "Yi Meiyu." "What?" Everyone was shocked. as if they had seen a ghost. They all widened their eyes and looked at each other in dismay. No matter what, they never thought that it would be this answer. Tang Zheng was surprised, but he fell into deep thought. Yi Meiyu was no longer the same as before. She had already absorbed the power of the incubus, and could be considered an expert. What did it mean for her to participate in this battle? He shook his head fiercely, unable to figure out the reason behind it. Did you really see it clearly? Yan Patian could not help but ask. He knew a little about Yi Meiyu. Moreover, the results of his investigation a while ago showed that Yi Meiyu was completely different from usual. Although Tang Zheng did not explain why later on, he also realized that Yi Meiyu was different. This time, her figure actually appeared in the prophecy, which was even more intriguing. He couldn't help but look at Tang Zheng curiously, guessing that perhaps Tang Zheng knew the answer. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Tang Zheng asked Yan Qingyi, "Have you seen another person, Lu Wuxin?" Yan Qingyi frowned suspiciously. Hearing Tang Zheng describe Lu Wuxin's appearance bit by bit, Yan Qingyi closed her eyes and recalled that scene. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and said, "There's her." "Who is Lu Wuxin?" Tian Chanzi could not help but ask curiously. Back then, Tang Zheng did not tell everyone about Yi Meiyu and Lu Wuxin, because this was related to Qiyu. Qiyu was the big secret hidden in his body, so he did not easily show it to others. Lu Wuxin was a female general under the Yellow Emperor in the ancient era. She had a brilliant battle record. Empyrean Fairy spoke first. Empyrean Fairy had a high temperament, and knew a lot about the strong women in history. Of course, she misunderstood and missed the female general under the Yellow Emperor in the ancient era. A female general under the Yellow Emperor? Everyone was shocked. They never thought that this matter would actually involve someone from the ancient era. Other than the 100 Transformations Star Lord, why would someone from the ancient era appear? That's right, it's already been over 10,000 years. Why isn't he dead yet? Chapter 1125. It's a long story. Lu Wuxin didn't live for more than 10,000 years, but her soul was imprisoned in the desolate heavenly tomb back then. Later on, when the restrictions of the desolate heavenly tomb were broken, her soul escaped. Later on, she found someone to possess and reincarnate, reappearing in the world. The Pinnacle Novel. Tang Zheng explained. Tian Chanzi raised his eyebrows and suddenly realized. So that's how it is. Could it be that many of the things that escaped back then are going to appear? Perhaps. Since the first one has appeared, then there must be a second one. I have already ordered everyone to gather all the relevant information. I believe there will be a result soon. What's going on with Yi Meiyu? Yi Dingdang asked curiously. Tang Zheng explained the cause and effect once again, causing everyone to sigh. Yi Xuanji has always used Yi Ku, but now it seems that Yi Meiyu has reached a higher level, and the Ye family's situation will definitely change. Yi Meiyu is even more unreasonable than Yi Ku. The key is that there is still Lu Wuxin, so we have to be careful of the Ye family. Tang Zheng warned. Yan Patian and Qin Batian nodded at the same time. Then what does my prophecy mean? Is there really going to be a great battle? Yan Qingyi asked. Since Lu Wuxin is fighting with the other side, then do you remember that there is such a person in the other camp? Tang Zheng still remembered the Saint King of the Demon Clan, and described his appearance. Yan Qingyi was wild with joy. Yes, there's him. Tang Zheng's head trembled, and his expression changed slightly. Empyrean Fairy had an idea, and asked curiously. Could it be that this person is from the Demon Clan? Since Lu Wuxin was fighting with others, then who else in this world could make Lu Wuxin hate them so much? It could only be the Demon Clan. After all, the Demon Clan had evolved from the Ninely Clan. Demon Clan, is that true? The others asked one after another. Tang Zheng let out a long sigh and said, in the ancient times there was an earth-shattering battle. The Battle of Zhuolu. Qiyu was defeated, and the Yellow Emperor was victorious. Thus, Huaxia's orthodox inheritance was established. Now that tens of thousands of years have passed, could it be that the two sides are going to fight again? The meaning of this sentence was clear enough. The other camp was undoubtedly the demon race. Could it be that this enmity that had existed for tens of thousands of years was going to be settled in the future? If that's really the case, then Lu Wuxin must have gathered his old subordinates, because many of the souls that escaped from the prehistoric heavenly tomb were Yellow Emperor's subordinates. Empyrean Fairy said with certainty. No one retorted. It was obvious that they believed this judgment. If Lu Wuxin were to gather his former subordinates to fight against the demons, wouldn't my previous precautions be unnecessary? Tang Zheng thought to himself. He originally wanted to collect information on the anomalies in various places, and then capture all of these souls in one fell swoop to prevent them from harming the common people. Now that the devil race had returned, these souls had become a force against the devil race after their rebirth. Lu Wuxin will definitely have a way to gather these old subordinates. I just don't know what method he will use. Seeing that Tang Zheng was silent, everyone looked at him at the same time and asked, "Then what should we do?" Tang Zheng raised his head, looked at everyone and said, "Everyone, don't worry, since these two forces are going to fight, the sandpiper and clam will fight, and the fisherman will reap the benefits, which is better than we expected." Seeing that Tang Zheng was so confident, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Everyone disperse. Just pay more attention during this period of time. Tang Zheng waved his hand and said. Everyone dispersed, and Tang Zheng also left his home alone, heading towards the imperial city. Since he had decided to release the 5-clawed golden dragon, moreover, he had promised it that he would release it once his cultivation reached the semi-god stage. Now it was time to fulfill his promise. However, he did not know that the two people at home were whispering to each other. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu revealed unconcealable anger between their brows. Lan Yu said in a low voice, "Our son has suffered such a great injustice, we can't just let it go like this." She was eager to protect her son, not to mention the fact that she owed Tang Zheng too much since he was a child. She could not tolerate her son being wronged like this. Wu Junshan's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Let's go find the person behind this. Lan Yu looked at her husband with admiration and said decisively, "Yes, let's go meet that leader." Wu Junshan nodded without hesitation. As the former head of the martial arts sect, he did not have much respect for the secular world's nobles, not to mention offending his son. If this could be tolerated, what else could be tolerated? The two of them hit it off and quietly left the villa, heading straight to the vicinity of the courtyard. In broad daylight, the courtyard house was heavily guarded, and not even a fly could get in. The two of them looked at each other. Then, with a tacit understanding in their hearts, they tiptoed and quietly came to the corner of the wall like a bird. Whoosh whoosh. With a leap, they tried to climb over the courtyard wall, but while they were still in the air, they heard an angry roar. "Who is it?" Whoosh. A strong wind blew over, incomparably domineering. The two of them tapped their toes on the courtyard wall and soared into the sky, dodging the attack, and then landed steadily in the courtyard house. Hearing this angry roar, the courtyard house was filled with noisy footsteps. Many guards rushed over like lightning from all directions. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu looked at each other, and saw the shock in each other's eyes. They were not afraid of the guards, but were shocked by the attack just now. If the two of them had been careless, they definitely would not have been able to dodge that attack. From this point, it could be seen how profound this person's cultivation was. Since when was there such a powerful person in the inner palace? Number 1, a martial king expert, was already dead, so who could be their match? The crowd parted, and two people walked over. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu's pupils shrank, revealing a puzzled expression as they stared at the two people. That was because they had already recognized one of them, Yi Meiyu. At the same time, another name appeared in their minds. Lu Wuxin. Although they had never seen Lu Wuxin before, they had heard Tang Zheng describe him to Yan Qingyi, so they had a deep impression of him. That was because Lu Wuxin's appearance was too unique, and people could recognize him at a glance. Yi Meiyu, Lu Wuxin. You actually know us? Lu Wuxin looked at the two of them in surprise. After all, Yi Meiyu was a member of the Ye family. She had seen the photos of Wu Junshan and Lan Yu, so she immediately recognized them and said, Senior, these two people are the original sect master of the martial sect, Wu Junshan, and his wife Lan Yu. They are Tang Zheng's biological parents. Tang Zheng's parents? A cold light flashed in Lu Wuxin's eyes. She had a deep impression of Tang Zheng. He chased them until they fled in a sorry state. This was a great humiliation. How could she forget it? Now that she saw his parents, could it be that it was heaven's will that she could take revenge? Lu Wuxin approached the two of them step by step. Her face was filled with bone-chilling hatred and said coldly, "Your son provoked me, and the father has to pay for the child's debt. Then I'll start with you and let him know the consequences of provoking me." It's not that easy to kill us. Wu Junshan stepped forward and directly attacked Lu Wuxin. He drew 9 large circles with his hands, which continuously surged toward Lu Wuxin. Wu Junshan directly used his yin-yang harmony art, his signature move. A light flashed in Lu Wuxin's hand, and the heartless willow appeared in her palm. The willow leaves danced and a green light flew out, hitting the 9 circles. Bang bang. A series of collision sounds rang out as the circles shattered one after another. Only when the last one was left did the green light's attack come to an abrupt end. However, Wu Junshan's attack also disappeared without a trace, completely disintegrating. A simple move had determined the winner between the two sides. Wu Junshan was shocked. He was a martial king, but he was at a disadvantage in front of the opponent. There was no doubt about the result of this battle. Another question popped up in his mind. Why were there Lu Wuxin and Yi Meiyu in the inner palace? Could it be that they had colluded with the chief? This was a new piece of news that he had to inform Tang Zheng. Otherwise, there would definitely be a misjudgment, and it would be too late for regrets. The husband and wife were of the same mind. Lan Yu also instantly thought of this question. She also stepped forward without hesitation. Her cultivation was not inferior to Wu Junshan's. Once she used the broken yang finger, one finger could split yin and yang. The qi of heaven and earth seemed to be split into 2 by that slender finger. The other guards felt a soul-stirring aura, and all of them sucked in a breath of cold air. They were overwhelmed with shock. If not for Lu Wuxin and Yi Meiyu coincidentally coming here, they would not have been able to stop Wu Junshan and Lan Yu. At the entrance of the study not far away, the chief stood behind the layers of guards. He raised his head and looked in the direction of the battle, his thick eyebrows almost forming a crescent moon. He gritted his teeth and muttered to himself, "Tang Zheng has gone too far. Last time he trespassed here, and now he called someone over. He must have guessed that I was the one who leaked the news, so he came to denounce me. I am the dignified chief. How can I allow you to order me around?" At the same time, he also felt a lingering fear and rejoiced. This time, Lu Wuxin and Yi Meiyu were summoned because of the results of the investigation. Lu Wuxin cooperated with the chief, and asked the chief to investigate the abnormal events in various places. Now that there were finally clues, the chief informed them. Before they even entered the study, Lu Wuxin had already heard the commotion, so he didn't hesitate to step out to stop them. Now, not only was the chief working with Lu Wuxin, he was also working with Ji Wuxiang. He was truly not an ordinary person. The chief could not help but rejoice. Fortunately, he had agreed to cooperate with Lu Wuxin. Otherwise, without his help, he would have encountered Wu Junshan and Lan Yu. At the thought of this, he was enraged. This time he had found the information Lu Wuxin wanted, so she had to fulfill her promise and make him stronger in the shortest time possible. That way he would not be easily bullied by others. At that time, anyone who dared to provoke him would end up in a miserable state. Chapter 1126. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu were of one mind and attacked Lu Wuxin together. Lu Wuxin's situation immediately changed. Lu Wuxin's eyes turned cold as he stared at the two and said, "You can come at me together. I'll deal with you in one go." Whoosh. The heartless willow gently waved and 2 green lights shot toward the two. The oppressive aura made the two unable to breathe. However, the two didn't flinch at all. Wu Junshan performed the yin-yang harmony art, and drew a circle with his big hand. Endless power gushed out from the circle, and greeted the 2 green lights with an earth-shattering force. At the same time, Lan Yu also launched an attack with the yin-yang split finger. Bang! Bang! Two loud noises were heard as the two green lights collapsed. However, the yin-yang harmony art and the yang split fingers attack didn't completely weaken and still rushed toward Lu Wuxin. Lu Wuxin's eyes flashed with surprise as he clicked his tongue and said, "Amazing! You can actually dissolve my attack. But so what? You're doomed to fail." As soon as his voice fell, the heartless willow rapidly grew as if a giant snake had grown a tail and quickly rolled toward the two. Whoosh! The long willow branch suddenly danced and broke the two's attack. Then, it lashed out like a whip and fiercely attacked the two. The two watched as the willow branch got closer and closer, and rapidly enlarged in their eyes. They tried to dodge but found that the willow branch had locked onto all directions. No matter how they dodged, they couldn't escape the willow branch's attack. Since that was the case, they could only fight back. The yin-yang harmony art and the yang split finger were performed again. However, with a muffled sound, the two were sent flying and smashed into a big tree before they stopped. The two got up from the ground in a sorry state with blood hanging from the corner of their mouths. They looked at Lu Wuxin in horror. One could imagine the combat strength of the two when they joined hands. They didn't expect that they would be defeated so quickly. The opponent's cultivation was really shocking. Yi Meiyu looked at the two proudly. She wasn't surprised by the result and sneered. "Wu Junshan Lan Yu, now you know how powerful Senior is, right? Hung. All of this was caused by your obedient son, Tang Zheng. You can only blame yourselves." Lan Yu fiercely glared back at Yi Meiyu and said, "Yi Meiyu, don't be complacent. Even if we really die, that Tang Zheng will take revenge for us. On the contrary, if we die, the curse is torture. We will definitely not have a good ending in the future." "Ha ha ha, what a joke." Yi Meiyu laughed maniacally in disdain. "I am not the Yi Meiyu of the past. My life is up to me to decide. No one else has the qualifications or ability to decide for me. The two of you, on the other hand, are going to be miserable today. You're definitely going to die." Yi Meiyu's temperament had completely changed, especially after following Lu Wuxin. She was like a completely different person. "Humph, announcing that we're dead for sure so quickly. Aren't you a little too confident?" Lan Yu sneered and retorted, exchanging glances with Wu Junshan. Whoosh! The two of them leaped and attacked Lu Wuxin. Lu Wuxin rolled his eyes and said in disdain, "Let's see how you guys are going to dodge this time." The heartless willow grew crazily, swaying as it soared into the air. With lightning speed, it neutralized the attacks of the two and then wrapped around them. The two of them turned pale with fright. They tried to resist, but found that it was useless. The attack of the heartless willow was simply too powerful. One had to know that the heartless willow was a saint tool, and was definitely not something an ordinary magic treasure could compare to. Against these two unarmed people, the heartless willow had a huge advantage. Moreover, Lu Wuxin's cultivation was higher than the two of them, so his advantage was even more obvious. Seeing that the two of them were trapped, the surrounding guards all clapped and cheered. They looked at Lu Wuxin with eyes filled with shock and horror. Lu Wuxin looked at the two of them with a fake smile and asked, "Now you know the pain, right? But it's too late, you two must die. Don't worry, in the future, I will kill Tang Zheng and send him to reunite with your family." "Nonsense, keep dreaming. How can our son be killed by you?" The two of them immediately retorted. "Senior, why are you saying so much useless things to them? To avoid trouble, just kill them directly." Yi Meiyu's eyes were filled with killing intent as she urged. Lu Wuxin said with a smile, "Don't worry, I'll play with them slowly. It's been a long time since I met such an expert. If I kill them so quickly, wouldn't it be letting them off too easily?" Yi Meiyu suddenly realized and said, "Senior's words make sense. Let's go, we'll talk to the people inside first." Lu Wuxin was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he swaggered towards the direction of the bureau chief. Along the way, this scene attracted the gazes of many people because this scene was too bizarre. The bureau chief had never truly seen Lu Wuxin's methods. He leaned against the door and watched dumbfoundedly as the few of them walked over like stars surrounding the moon. Especially the two people who were entangled by the willow branch in midair. This made him click his tongue in wonder and feel extremely envious. He thought to himself how good it would be if he had such a powerful magic treasure. The bureau chief tidied up his clothes and greeted them with a serious expression. In the huge courtyard, the two sides met. The bureau chief could not help but look at Wu Junshan and Lan Yu, who were in midair, and said indignantly, "You guys have guts to actually dare to trespass into the inner palace. Are you not afraid of death?" Wu Junshan glared and roared, "You slandered our son and splashed dirty water on him. Don't think that we don't know about this. If not you, who should we look for?" The bureau chief suddenly realized and laughed mockingly. "So you guys actually came for this matter. Tang Zheng's actions are obvious to everyone in the world. He is simply insane. How am I the one who splashed dirty water and slandered him?" Although this matter could not be any more obvious, he still refused to admit it. He would not let others have a reason to criticize him, especially in front of so many people. Lu Wuxin frowned and asked, "What are you guys talking about? Island Nation was destroyed not long ago. Many news had not been announced to the public, or many people who did not care about current affairs did not know about it. Without a doubt, Lu Wuxin and Yi Meiyu were such people." Lu Wuxin did notice the strange phenomenon in the Island Nation, but all her thoughts were on the matter of gathering her old subordinates. In addition, she did not know about the Mountain River blood sacrifice array, so naturally, she did not think in this direction. The bureau chief did not want to talk about this matter in front of so many people, so he said perfunctorily, "I'll tell you later." Seeing the bureau chief's strange expression, Lu Wuxin fell into deep thought, and did not ask further. Kill these two people. They dared to trespass into this place, which is already a capital offense. The bureau chief did not want to give the two more opportunities to talk nonsense, so as to avoid revealing more things that would be detrimental to him. So he directly issued a gag order. Lu Wuxin originally had the intention to kill. Hearing him say this, his killing intent surged. "If that's the case, then I'll send you on your way." Lu Wuxin activated the Heartless Willow, and the willow branches emitted a faint green light, fiercely shrinking inward. The huge force immediately pressed down on the two people, causing their faces to turn red with pain. Yi Meiyu's eyes were incomparably excited as she thought to herself, "Tang Zheng, you ignored me. Today, I'll kill your parents and you'll know how powerful I am." Wu Junshan and Lan Yu looked at each other. Wu Junshan said guiltily, It was all my fault back then. I did not fulfill my duty as a father and husband, and allowed my son to wander outside. I have never dared to ask for your forgiveness. I only hope to be a cow or a horse in my next life to repay you too." Lan Yu's eyes reddened as she emotionally said, "Junshan, I don't blame you anymore. In my lifetime, I've already forgiven you when I saw my son again, and saw his achievements today. It's just a pity that we can't continue to accompany our son. I haven't had the chance to hear him call me mother yet. This is the biggest regret of my life. I don't dare ask him to call me father." Wu Junshan said in pain. "Haha, you're still so sentimental even when you're about to die. Don't worry, your son will soon go down to accompany you." Yi Meiyu mocked mercilessly. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu turned their heads to stare at Yi Meiyu at the same time, gritting their teeth as they said, "Yi Meiyu, how could you kill our son? He will definitely avenge us." "Is that so? Then we'll wait and see," Yi Meiyu said proudly. However, as soon as he finished speaking, two sword lights flashed. With two puffing sounds, the willow branches were actually cut off. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu landed on the ground and finally escaped. "Sect Master, you guys hurry up and leave. I'll stop them." A voice sounded, but it was impossible to tell the exact location. Wu Junshan's heart skipped a beat as he guessed that the shadow had made a move. This time, when he came to the capital, the shadow had actually been following him in secret. It was just that he had a set of concealment techniques, so outsiders could not detect his existence at all. This time, when he came to the capital to denounce them, the shadow was still by his side. It was just that he was not in a hurry to show himself. Now that the two of them were on the verge of death, the shadow had no choice but to make a move. "Who is it?" Lu Wuxin flew into a rage and roared. His sharp eyes looked around, trying to find out who had made a move. However, after looking around, she still could not find her target. This made her extremely angry, as there was actually someone who could hide their tracks right under her nose. The others also looked at each other in dismay. Their gazes wandered around, but they still could not find anything. The chief subconsciously hid in the protective circle of the guards and looked around in fear. This person's attack was so strange, he was afraid that his life would be ended by this ghostly sword edge. Yi Meiyu was not to be outdone and scolded sternly. Who is pretending to be mysterious? If you have the ability, show yourself. No one responded to Yi Meiyu. Seeing that she was ignored, Yi Meiyu flew into a rage. You go first. I'll stay behind and fight alongside the shadow. Wu Junshan was very clear that if no one stayed behind to restrain the other party, it would be very difficult to escape. He was willing to sacrifice himself in exchange for his wife's safety. Lan Yu was reluctant to part with him and kept shaking his head. Be good, you have to tell this news to our son. You can't be deceived by this group of people. Your mission is even more difficult. Wu Junshan warned sternly. Chapter 11:27. Lan Yu was a meticulous person. She was also a decisive person. She instantly understood what her husband was thinking. Her husband was willing to sacrifice himself to protect her. She was extremely touched, but she did not reject him like a little woman. She suddenly turned her head, tapped her toes, and rushed to the roof. A single tear rolled down her cheek and fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. Catch her! Seeing this, the chief shouted. A few people jumped up, wanting to stop her. However, a sword light suddenly flashed, and with a few slashes, a few streaks of blood flew up. A few people fell from the sky and landed hard on the ground, unable to move anymore. The chief was so frightened that he shrank his neck and staggered back. He felt a chill run from his back to the top of his head. This person was too elusive. In the next second he disappeared again, as if he had never appeared. If it were not for the few corpses and blood on the ground, no one would believe that he had made a move again. Yi Meiyu's eyes were also filled with confusion. Clearly, she did not see clearly how the shadow attacked, and then disappeared without a trace. Lu Wuxin's eyes lit up. She seemed to be deep in thought as her gaze wandered through the crowd. Suddenly, she laughed and said, "You're quite good at disguising yourself. You're called the shadow, right? In front of me. Even if you're just a shadow, I'll make sure you have nowhere to hide and drag you out." Lu Wuxin's figure flashed and rushed into the crowd of guards. Immediately, it was as if a pot had exploded. When the guards saw the fierce Lu Wuxin rushing over, they all turned pale and fled in all directions. The crowd dispersed, and a sword light flashed. The shadow finally appeared. The shadow was good at concealing his whereabouts. In fact, he was good at hiding in the shadows of the crowd or other buildings and trees, so that no one could detect him. If he was following someone, even if he was behind them, no matter how vigilant that person was, they would definitely not be able to detect his presence. He was like this person's shadow. Of course, if this person's cultivation was ridiculously high, then there was nothing he could do and he would definitely be detected. Lu Wuxin's cultivation was much higher than his, so even if he used this kind of concealment technique, it was useless. After the crowd scattered and fled, he finally couldn't hide anymore. Seeing the sharp sword light coming towards him, Lu Wuxin revealed a smile in his eyes. Such a petty trick. You may be able to fool others, but how can you fool my eyes? The sword missed and did not hurt Lu Wuxin at all. Lu Wuxin's attack was like a thunderbolt, arriving in front of the shadow in the blink of an eye. The shadow was wearing a black cloak, and its face could not be seen. It was as if it was really a black shadow. Since his first attack had failed, he had already prepared a series of counterattacks. Therefore, when Lu Wuxin's attack arrived, it just so happened to collide with his counterattack. The sword light and the green light lit up at the same time. They were incomparably dazzling as they complemented each other. Seeing this, Wu Junshan silently joined the battle. He was very clear about the shadow's strength. It was slightly inferior to his own, so how could it be a match for Lu Wuxin? The shadow's trump card was to appear and disappear unpredictably. Once his whereabouts were exposed, his attack would be greatly reduced, and he would be even less of a match for Lu Wuxin. Lu Wuxin heard the commotion behind him, but was not afraid at all. He activated a spell, and Wuxin's willow grew wildly, circling around the shadow and attacking from behind. Bang! A loud sound came from behind, but it did not affect Lu Wuxin's attack at all. Crack! With a crisp sound, the shadow's sword broke into two. Lu Wuxin reached out and grabbed the shadow's arm. The shadow roared and fought back with all his might. He spun a few times in the air, and miraculously escaped. Then he quickly retreated and disappeared into the crowd. Lu Wuxin was multitasking, so his attack was greatly reduced. He blocked Wu Junshan's attack but did not hurt him. Seeing Wu Junshan attack again, Lu Wuxin was furious. He turned around and glared at Wu Junshan. Go to hell! The branches of the Wuxin willow split into 2, then 4, and in the blink of an eye, there were hundreds of them. They were like 100 poisonous snakes, attacking Wu Junshan together. Wu Junshan hurriedly circled around, but the yin-yang harmony art could only block a few willow branches. It could not block so many. He was hit by dozens of willow branches, and several bloody holes appeared on his body. Blood flowed out incessantly. Wu Junshan staggered and knelt on one knee. However, he stood up abruptly and gritted his teeth, his expression resolute. Swoosh! Sword light flashed again, and the shadow attacked again. Seeing that Wu Junshan's life was at stake, he could not care less about his own safety. Lu Wuxin's lips curled into a cold smile, as if he had already expected this. You're willing to sacrifice your own life for him. You really are eager to protect your master. Lu Wuxin turned around abruptly and charged at the shadow again. This time the shadow's attack was even fiercer, almost erupting with his most powerful attack. The broken sword seemed to have been rejuvenated as well, bursting with terrifying sword light that was incomparably sharp. However, this did not pose much of a threat to Lu Wuxin. The willow branches lashed at the shadow's body, and his black clothes were immediately dyed red with blood. A few willow branches pierced through his body, and he hung on the branches like a candied haw. Shadow! Wu Junshan turned pale with fright and screamed hysterically. The shadow had been following him for several decades, almost inseparable from him. It was as if they were truly one person. This time, the shadow did not hesitate to sacrifice his own life for him. One could imagine the pain in Wu Junshan's heart. Tears flickered in his eyes, but he held them back. An intense killing intent surged in his eyes as he stood upright, supporting the heavens with an indomitable spirit. Shadow, I will avenge you. Wu Junshan paused between gritted teeth. These words seemed to burst out from the depths of his soul. Sect Master, leave me behind. Leave me behind. The shadow was not dead. Although he was drenched in blood, his eyes were still as bright as the stars. No, I won't leave. Wu Junshan was unwilling to abandon his brother. That was not his style. Sect Master, leave. Suddenly, the shadow roared. In front of Wu Junshan he had never shouted like this. He had always obeyed Wu Junshan's orders, and was incomparably respectful. Sect Master, this is my last wish. Don't let me die in peace. Following you is the happiest thing in my life. Farewell. The shadow's sorrowful farewell moved everyone. Many of the guards were also emotional people, and couldn't help but tear up. However, the next scene was even more shocking. They saw him disregard the willow branches that pierced through his body and quickly move forward. He directly arrived in front of Lu Wuxin and hugged him. Sect Master, leave. The shadow ignored the pain and roared again. Several willow branches pierced through his body, but he acted as if nothing had happened. He hugged Lu Wuxin with all his might, not letting go at all. Lu Wuxin was also surprised by the other's decisiveness. He was slightly stunned and lost in thought. Wu Junshan clenched his teeth and trembled all over. He roared to the sky. Shadow, I will avenge you. Whoosh! With a tap of his foot, he shot up like a rocket and landed on the roof. Stop. Yi Meiyu seemed to have woken up from a dream. She leaped up and tried to stop Wu Junshan, but found that Wu Junshan, who had already gone all out, was too fast for her to catch up. Lu Wuxin's face was ashen. He didn't expect that the thing he was determined to get would change like this. The shadow burned his life force and erupted with the last bit of power. Even she couldn't break free immediately. However, Lu Wuxin was too powerful. He widened his eyes and shouted with killing intent. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. Heartless willow transform. The heartless willow flickered and rapidly expanded, especially the willow branches that pierced through the shadow's body. They rapidly expanded. The shadow's eyes immediately widened and blood flowed out from his eyes. It was very terrifying. However, the shadow revealed a smile, as if mocking Lu Wuxin for not letting Wu Junshan stay. Bang! With a loud explosion, the shadow exploded. His body was blown up by the heartless willow, turning into flesh and blood that scattered all over the sky. Many people's bodies were stained with the shadow's blood and flesh. They were so scared that they screamed. As if they had seen a ghost, they kept stomping their feet and slapping their bodies. The chief heard a splashing sound and his face was wet. A stream of liquid flowed down his cheeks to his neck, and then into his clothes. He was stunned for a moment, then jumped up and screamed hysterically. His face turned pale, and he kept wiping his face. Then his hands turned blood red. He was in an extremely sorry state, and was even more terrifying. Chief, Chief! Seeing him like this, the other guards all shouted. Lu Wuxin looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot, the corner of his mouth revealing a disdainful expression. At this time, Yi Meiyu fell from the roof. She chased after Wu Junshan for a distance, but in the end, she still lost track of him. She said in annoyance, "Senior, I didn't catch up to him." Although Lu Wuxin felt that it was a pity, he didn't say much. He nodded slightly, then looked at the furious chief, walked straight over, and pressed down on his shoulder. The chief finally calmed down, but his face was as pale as paper. "Let's talk business." Lu Wuxin didn't give him a chance to breathe, and went straight to the point. The chief trembled and said, "Wait, I'll go clean up first." Lu Wuxin didn't give him the chance and refused. "After we're done talking business, you have plenty of time." The chief rolled his eyes helplessly, but due to Lu Wuxin's prestige, he finally didn't have the courage to refuse. He hung his head dejectedly and said resentfully, "All right." After a pause, he said to the others, "Clean this place up." Looking at the flesh and blood in the courtyard, many people were already bent over and vomiting, but they could only accept the order. The chief suppressed the urge and fear to vomit and entered the study with Lu Wuxin and Yi Meiyu. Chapter 1128. Lu Wuxin was calm and didn't take that disgusting scene to heart. After experiencing the Great War in ancient times, this was simply child's play. Yi Meiyu's expression was a little strange, but it wasn't as serious as the others. She realized that she had a natural fanaticism for this kind of bloodshed. Lu Wuxin sat on the chair and stared straight at the bureau chief. "You said that you've found what I want." The bureau chief took a few deep breaths and finally sorted out his chaotic emotions. "Yes, I found what you want." Lu Wuxin stretched out his hand. The bureau chief frowned and said in a deep voice, "We agreed earlier that I'll give you what you want, and you have to give me what I want, remember?" Lu Wuxin obviously remembered. That was, she had to make the bureau chief stronger in the shortest time possible. But she didn't intend to do so. She was purely using the bureau chief. Why would she give him benefits? Seeing that Lu Wuxin was silent, the bureau chief's face darkened. "Don't you remember? Humph, then there's no way to cooperate." He had this anger buried in his heart, and now that he was played by Lu Wuxin, even a bodhisattva would be angry. Yi Meiyu hurriedly persuaded, "Calm down, how could Senior forget? Give us what we need first, and Senior will naturally fulfill your wish." The bureau chief looked at Yi Meiyu coldly as if saying, "Don't treat me like a fool. Yi Meiyu, you don't have the right to speak here." "Don't have the right?" Yi Meiyu's eyes jumped wildly, and she almost went berserk. But in the end, she suppressed it and said meaningfully, "Bureau chief, you've seen how powerful Senior is just now. You don't want to be Senior's enemy, right?" The bureau chief's heart turned cold. "Do you dare to do anything to me?" This sentence was full of vigor, but he was nervous in his heart. In the end, it was a bit lacking, and he seemed to be strong in appearance but weak in heart. Lu Wuxin looked at the bureau chief with a burning gaze. The bureau chief forced himself to be alert, and when their eyes met, he almost looked away guiltily, but in the end he persisted. "I can do what you want, but you have to give me what I want first." "No. What if you go back on your word?" The bureau chief's heart relaxed. He sighed, and cold sweat broke out on his back. Seeing the other party give in, he couldn't help but regain some confidence. If that's the case, then there's no need to talk. Lu Wuxin stood up leisurely, which gave the bureau chief a fright. He subconsciously stepped back and said, "What are you doing?" Lu Wuxin didn't say a word, but his powerful aura enveloped the chief, making him almost unable to breathe. "Don't come over, or else I'll call for help," the bureau chief shouted. "Do you think those good-for-nothings outside are my match?" Lu Wuxin retorted, "Of course not. Even a 3-year-old child would know this. Was he going to agree just like that? Wouldn't that be a complete loss?" Not only would he not gain any benefits, but he would also benefit the other party. Wouldn't his dream of becoming stronger become nothing but a bubble? Wait. Unable to retreat, the bureau chief suddenly stretched out his hand and shouted, "What else is there to say? There's one thing you definitely don't know. The demon race has returned. Do you know? Demons." Lu Wuxin was stunned. She subconsciously stopped and stared at him. Of course, she knew that the demon race evolved from the Jiuli tribe. Therefore, her hatred for the Jiuli tribe had also shifted to the demon race. Hearing that the demon race had returned, her attention was immediately attracted. Seeing that Lu Wuxin was indeed interested, the bureau chief heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Yes, the demon race's army has returned from the heavens beyond heaven. This world is about to change. What's the use of you against me? Wouldn't it be better for us to join hands to fight against the demon race?" Lu Wuxin's eyes flickered, and he remained silent. Yi Meiyu looked at Lu Wuxin curiously. She didn't have strong feelings for the demon race. She said blankly, "Senior, what's so great about the demon race? Why do you still need to cooperate with him?" Yi Meiyu was proud and didn't put the bureau chief in her eyes. When the bureau chief heard this, he was furious, but he couldn't do anything. Lu Wuxin shook his head lightly and said, "No, the demon race isn't as simple as you think. Tens of thousands of years ago, we defeated them, and now we still have to defeat them. But it's impossible with just the few of us. If we have his help, we might have a better chance of winning." Although Lu Wuxin was also a proud person, she wasn't blinded by pride. She had fought with the Jiuli tribe countless times, and knew how powerful the other party was. Although the demon race was no longer the same as before, and there was no longer Qiyu, wasn't she also incomparable to the past? Therefore, in order to defeat the demon race, she had to be careful and unite all forces. The most important thing was to summon her old subordinates and twist them into a rope. If she really killed the bureau chief, then there was no way to know the whereabouts of these old subordinates. Although she might be able to find them in the future, it would definitely take more time. Seeing that Lu Wuxin hesitated, the bureau chief secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He finally knew that he had won the bet, and his eyes couldn't help but shine. "Okay, I agree to your request. I'll satisfy you now," Lu Wuxin said resolutely. The bureau chief's eyes lit up, and he couldn't wait to say, "Okay, I will also keep my promise." "Humph, do you dare not to keep your promise?" Lu Wuxin said disdainfully. The bureau chief was greatly embarrassed, and secretly swore that when he became stronger in the future, he would definitely ruthlessly teach this ugly woman a lesson. Your meridians have already been fixed, and the best time for cultivation has passed. This may be a problem for others, but I have a way to overcome this difficulty. I can directly raise you to the first grade of Yuanying. First grade of Yuanying. The bureau chief's breathing quickened, and his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He was wild with joy. He knew a thing or two about cultivators, and understood how difficult it was to reach the first grade of Yuanying. This was simply heaven-defying, and was equivalent to the martial king realm. One had to know that number one, who had always followed by his side, had cultivated for most of his life, and also had the guidance of a famous teacher. Only after enduring wind and rain did he cultivate to the martial king realm. His starting point was the Yuanying realm. Then how powerful would he be in the future? Just thinking about it made him extremely excited. Yi Meiyu curled her lips, as if she didn't expect that Lu Wuxin would actually give the bureau chief such a huge benefit, and let him suddenly become one of the experts. However, They didn't know that there weren't so many shortcuts in the world. The bureau chief was happy now, but he was happy too early. His cultivation would forever be confined to the Yuanying realm. And this was the after-effect of hasty growth. No matter what, it was impossible for him to break through to the soul formation realm. However, the bureau chief was blinded by joy, and didn't realize this at all, and didn't know this at all. Good, good, good. The bureau chief was incoherent, and said good 3 times in a row. He clutched his chest and said impatiently, "Then let's begin." "No problem," Lu Wuxin said indifferently. "Take this pill first." Looking at the black pill in Lu Wuxin's palm, the bureau chief hesitated for a moment, and asked, "Will it be fine after I take this pill?" "Why do you have so many questions?" Lu Wuxin said impatiently. The bureau chief made up his mind, thinking that although this thing didn't look good, it would definitely be effective. Otherwise, why would she spend so much effort to refine this pill? He swallowed the pill in one gulp, and immediately felt a burning sensation in his throat. This burning sensation ran from his throat to his chest, and finally swept towards his internal organs and 8 extraordinary meridians. Ah! He could not help but cry out in agony. "What on earth did you feed me?" he gasped for breath. Didn't you ask for this yourself? Do you think it's comfortable to increase your cultivation in such a short time? Bear with it, and you'll be fine after you get through it. Lu Wuxin said in annoyance. Seeing that the other party didn't want to harm him, the bureau chief was slightly relieved, but the pain still tormented his body and mind, almost causing him to break down. Bang! He fell to the ground and kept rolling, looking battered and exhausted, crying out in pain. Lu Wuxin looked at him coldly. Actually, she could have lessened the pain, but the other party's uncooperative attitude had angered her. She was a vengeful person, so how could she not take the opportunity to teach him a lesson? The bureau chief rolled back and forth on the ground, screaming incessantly. He felt that his soul was about to fly away, and a huge wave of energy was about to burst his body. Seeing that it was about time, Lu Wuxin reached out and grabbed him, lifting him up. She pointed a finger at his glabella and said, "Remember the circulation path of true qi in the meridians. I'll only say it once, it'll depend on your luck." A light burst out from her fingertip and entered his glabella. He immediately felt that the energy in his body seemed to have found a vent, and flowed along a certain path. He didn't dare to let his guard down, and quickly memorized the corresponding circulation path. After all, he was able to reach his current position because of his extraordinary ability and willpower, so he finally remembered the circulation path of true qi. The energy in his body gradually calmed down, and he let out a long sigh of relief, feeling as if he had just survived a disaster. "I'll pass on a cultivation method to you, and you can cultivate it yourself. As for your luck, it'll depend on you." As soon as Lu Wuxin finished speaking, the bureau chief saw a flash of light in his mind, and an ancient cultivation method appeared. He quickly memorized it, afraid that it would disappear. Lu Wuxin let go of her hand, and the bureau chief's body went limp, and he sat down on the ground in a rather embarrassing manner. He quickly got up and patted his clothes, feeling that the pain just now was worth it. He felt better than ever, as if he had become a young man in his early 20s again, with endless energy and strength. Rejuvenation was nothing more than this, right? He did look much younger, with smoother skin and more muscular muscles. This new experience immersed him, and he couldn't extricate himself for a long time. He really wanted to find someone to test himself on and see how powerful he was. "Where's the thing I want?" Lu Wuxin reached out her hand. The bureau chief quickly found a thick document and said, "These are the abnormal reports we collected according to your request." Lu Wuxin casually flipped through it, and her eyes lit up. Outsiders wouldn't be able to see any clues, but for her, it only took one look to determine that this was what she wanted. It would be much easier to gather her old subordinates. Roar! Suddenly, a deafening roar soared into the sky, resounding through the horizon, causing people to tremble in fear. Chapter 1129. In broad daylight, Tang Zheng had already quietly arrived at the imperial city. The imperial city had been listed as a forbidden area, Everyone who entered or left had to go through strict inspection. They dug 3 feet into the ground, trying to find the 5-clawed golden dragon. In the end they found nothing, but they did not give up. Seeing that the former tourist attraction had turned into a bustling construction site, Tang Zheng sighed, but he also sneered disdainfully. Even if you dig through the ground, you won't be able to find the 5-clawed golden dragon. Tang Zheng used an illusion and walked through the construction site openly. Then he arrived at his destination. He activated the formation and arrived at the imperial city in the next second. When the 5-clawed golden dragon saw Tang Zheng, its dragon eyes widened. Then it said ecstatically, "You've finally reached the semi-god realm." It realized that the day it regained its freedom was coming. Tang Zheng walked in front of it with a calm expression and said, "Yes, I've reached the semi-god realm." "Thinking you let me out?" The 5-clawed golden dragon could not wait to say. "If you go out, what are you going to do?" Tang Zheng asked. The 5-clawed golden dragon hesitated. After being imprisoned here for hundreds of years, it no longer knew what it would do when it went out. Revenge? Yes, it had thought about it. However, because of Tang Zheng's existence, it absolutely could not do so because Tang Zheng would stop it. Tang Zheng's soul imprint was still in its mind, so it did not dare to act rashly. "If you don't have anywhere to go, why don't you stay by my side first?" Tang Zheng suggested. The 5-clawed golden dragon's eyes turned cold, and it asked warily, "Why should I stay by your side?" "Of course you have a place to be. You're so strong. Who else in this world can be your match?" "What's my place?" the 5-clawed golden dragon asked. "There's one thing you don't know yet." "What is it?" "The devil army has returned. This world will be turned upside down." "What? The devil army has returned?" The 5-clawed golden dragon was shocked. It had seen the devil clan before and knew how powerful they were. However, the two sides had not had much contact. "Yes, the demons have completely returned," Tang Zheng said solemnly. The 5-clawed golden dragon fell into silence. It was also very clear what this meant. Perhaps there was a place for it to be used, but subconsciously, it did not want to be used by Tang Zheng. By nature, it likes to be free and unrestrained. However, under the eaves, one had no choice but to lower their heads. It knew that if it did not agree, Tang Zheng would not let it out so easily. Taking a step back and leaving this damned place was the next most important thing. "All right, I promise you." The 5-clawed golden dragon nodded. Tang Zheng smiled with relief. The 5-clawed golden dragon was not a fool, and had made a smart choice. If it did not agree, perhaps he would have to use some means to make it agree. How could he let such a powerful guy leave him? The 5-clawed golden dragon looked at Tang Zheng aggrievedly and said, "Then can you break the formation now and let me regain my freedom?" "Just you wait." Tang Zheng walked into a small door at the back. It was the eye of the formation, and the heaven and earth obsidian was also buried below. The 5-clawed golden dragon stared at him through the small door, its eyes full of expectation. It had been imprisoned in this damned place for hundreds of years, and had long been tired of it. Tang Zheng had long been connected with the formation, so it was much easier to break the formation than expected, especially after he had reached the semi-god realm. "I'll begin," Tang Zheng said lightly. The 5-clawed golden dragon hurriedly nodded. "All right, let's begin." Tang Zheng stretched out his hands and opened his 10 fingers. With a thought he roared, "Rise!" Rays of white light shot up from the floor into the sky. It was the light emitted by the heaven and earth obsidian. In an instant, the small room was filled with white light. Tang Zheng bathed in the light, and was filled with a mysterious aura. He was serious in speech and manner and was exceptionally serious. People could not help but feel awe when they saw him. The 5-clawed golden dragon looked at him, and could not help but have the same thought. It suddenly felt that it was extremely ridiculous. How could it be in awe of a person at the first grade of the semi-god realm? Tang Zheng was immersed in the formation. At this moment, every corner of the formation appeared in his mind. Once this formation was broken, the formation that the predecessors had spent so much effort to set up would be destroyed. He took a deep breath and inhaled rays of light through his mouth and nose. In an instant, his body seemed to have become transparent, which was extremely mysterious. Boom, boom, boom. A series of loud sounds suddenly rang out, and the ground trembled. At the same time, the imperial city also trembled as if there was an earthquake. However, this trembling did not affect the entire capital like before. Instead, it was limited to the imperial city. This was because Tang Zheng deliberately reduced the influence of the formation after controlling it. In fact, if he had not coincidentally controlled this formation with Qi Yu's help, he would have wanted to break this formation. He was afraid that the huge capital would have been affected, and who knew how many buildings would have been destroyed in a day. Now the influence had been reduced to the lowest level. This was the limit of what Tang Zheng could do. He did not want to turn the world upside down just because he let the five-clawed golden dragon go. Although he said so, everyone in the imperial city turned pale with fright and started to make a big fuss. Many of them had experienced the battle of the imperial city. When they felt that the sky was shaking and the earth was shaking, their expressions immediately changed. They shouted hysterically, "Everyone get ready! The dragon might be coming out." Dragon. This word immediately suppressed the fear in their hearts. Their purpose was to find the dragon. When they knew that the target that they had been searching for so long was finally about to appear, many bold people even had a bright light in their eyes as they stared at the ground. The ground trembled non-stop, and smoke and dust splashed up on the ground. After a while, it turned into rolling yellow sand blocking people's vision. "I can't see." Someone in the crowd shouted loudly. However, in the end there were still timid people who panicked and did not know where to go. They shouted and fled. The imperial city was in chaos. The ground collapsed bit by bit, and a large black hole appeared and formed a vortex. The sand and sand spun along the vortex and fell bit by bit into the black hole. No one knew when it would end. Although yellow sand filled the sky, there were still people who saw this scene. Many smart people immediately thought that the dragon might be in the black hole. Then wouldn't they be able to find the dragon if they jumped down? The bold people wanted to jump down. However, they could not get close at all. They were swept up by the huge sandstorm and thrown in all directions. Tang Zheng also sensed the strange phenomenon in the imperial city, but it was unavoidable. Therefore, he did not get distracted and still focused on breaking the formation. The ground shook more and more violently, and the white light became more and more intense. Whoosh! A piece of heaven and earth obsidian flew up from the ground and floated in the air. Then other pieces of heaven and earth obsidian flew up one after another. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.